direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome to the season 2 finale. The denouement of our season 2. My name is Josh Wasta, aka Fallout Fury, and with me, she's been around the world and found that only stupid people are breeding. It's Leia Cameron.
Wow. Okay, so this one you got right.
And this whole time I've still been stuck on that Halo thing, so that's a different one.
Oh my god. I still, I feel so bad for that one. Like, I now have to go and research, hidden meanings of songs so I don't accidentally tell the world that Leia used condoms on her bed.
Probably a good idea to vet your sources.
That's how I found out about it in the first place, was like a bunch of, 33 things about 90s music that you missed or whatever. And I was like, what? No,
I did not know that either. So same. I found out here.
Ret Conversations, teaching people about the 90s.
Teaching 90s people about the 90s.
That's right.
Don't undersell it. Come on.
I was there the first time. I just didn't catch it. I was too busy trying to avoid heroin and keep my Tamagotchi alive.
This is fair. I was tending to my chia pet. Come on.
Oh, nice.
I was ordering jock jams off of late night infomercials, so,
No.
That's fantastic.
Oh, I can feel the moon boots just settling down.
Well, Leia, why don't you introduce our wonderful guest who's already integrated herself deep into our psyche.
Excellent. So today I have the pleasure of introducing you to our special guest, Dawn Baldwin, who currently maintains a incredibly important position in my life as, I think, one of the two friends I have known literally the longest. We met in kindergarten. So we have known each other for a insane amount of time, like most of our entire lives. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Dawn. Dawn, usually at the beginning of the podcast, we ask people to give us a little background on their history, if any, with comics, comic related properties, things like that. If you have some, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But yeah, just feel free to give us a little bit of about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I also did not know this was going to be the finale, so pressure. But also thank you for fitting me in, because I've kind of been a little bit annoying about that.
No. We're jazzed that you're jazzed.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm totally jazzed. It's ridiculous.
Dawn and I have Facebook stalked one another for years, but not really interacted.
It's fun. I feel like I have to throw a couple of disclosures out there before we begin, to start it off right, in that I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the great state of Crooked, Illinois. So please do not take anything I say to heart. Please consult your own mental health professional. I am not that. And to any clients that potentially stumble upon this, or who I inadvertently talk about this to and then go look it up, get out of here. This is not for you.
Even though I told you about it.
Exactly. Get out. It is not for you. And no, I will not be doing any follow-up questions to this later.
I'm going to be on a podcast. May I listen to it?
No.
No.
Or if you listen to at your own risk, that's, a personal decision you've made. And I respect that. So, but know that this is not going to be PG rated. And I do work with kids. So you should definitely leave.
There may be swears.
Yes, there may be swears. Might use some adult language.
Yes.
I was going to say, I know I have some other friends, notably my friends Scott and Claire, who their children listen to both Ret Conversations and Graphically Novel.
Oh, yeah.
And like at one point I video called them for some reason, and the kid was super excited. He was like, "Is that the person from Graphically Novel? That's fantastic!" And I'm like, "Your children listen to my show? Oh no! Oh no!
No. Yeah, it's what drew me to it, though, honestly. So to hell with the kids. So so I have zero working knowledge of comics. I will just come out and say it. I am definitely like a virgin. Because right, exactly. Thank you. My knowledge of any comics strictly comes from the MCU, and only in the past 5 or 6 years. So I am a newbie in kind of all senses of the term in regards to comics. So
those are some of our favorite guests. Our
we don't know what the hell's going on.
right. And so it's like, oh, I've seen this character. I'm interested in this character. Explain them to me. And then we get halfway through and you get our logo, which is our friend Mike Hollywood. Just his brain cracking at the introduction to Civil War.
Yes. That was, I have to say, though, one of my favorite guests so far, because I relate hardcore to just the brain breaking.
Oh yeah, no, we have to get him back. We have to we have to figure out another thing that he's interested enough in to sacrifice his sanity, especially since we did it to him twice in the first season.
It was pretty brutal.
But it was a good journey, though. I think that was I maintain, for season 1, I think my favorite episode was the Civil War 2, because you get to see Mike's journey in real time.
Yeah.
From being like, hey, fuck this shit, comics are stupid, being to crying and being like, what, why would they do this to my boy?
Exactly. So I aspire to be at that level. We'll see how it goes.
No, and we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So we will be doing Loki and Thor Blood Brothers.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an awesome book, by the way, just as an aside, for a licensed marriage and family counselor to interpret or to be with on this journey, because
so much yes.
Yeah.
Oh, don't set the bar too high.
Oh yeah, no, because this deals with abandonment issues. This deals with marriage. This deals with child rearing.
Intergenerational trauma.
Yes, intergenerational trauma. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Dude, I'm taking notes. I'm ready.
So, Leia, you want to do the breakdown of how the show will go, or would you like me to do it?
So I'm gonna have you do it because I totally forgot on my own show.
Okay.
Please edit that out.
Yes. I'm on it. Future Josh, cut in. So how this is going to go, Dawn, is that Professor L, Leia, is going to explain Loki Blood Brothers to you. At any point, you can pull the emergency brake on the entire show and ask any question you would like. It can be like, an actual serious question, or it could be a smart-ass comment. All of that is welcome. And as you ask that question, it will be my job to answer it as the backup professor. If I can't, I will toss it to Leia. If neither of us can come up with an answer, the answer is comic books. Sometimes there is no other explanation.
Very true.
So yeah, I believe that that brings us up to speed. So Professor L, floor is yours.
All right. Okay. So the name of this is Thor and Loki, Blood Brothers. Robert Rodai wrote it, and the artist is Asad Rabik. This was published in, I think, 2004. So this is actually set before the MCU exists. So I'm going to throw that out there for you specifically, Dawn, because we're going to see some things that come into play really neat with stuff that
I actually show 2010.
Oh, sorry. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
I don't know. Or I'm looking at a reprint.
Oh, yes, I am. No, you're right. I'm looking at a reprint.
But that still predates like a lot of the MCU, right?
Yes.
Yes.
At least all, if not all of it. I don't even remember when Iron Man came out. And wasn't that like their teardrop?
2008. and
Okay.
technically the Hulk movie starts off the MCU, but we don't talk about the Hulk movie.
That's fair. I refuse to see it because I have a thing for Mark Ruffalo. So
Yeah.
We don't talk about Brusso.
I guess that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
So so we start off and the first shot we see, or the first panel we see, is a subdued Thor, and Loki telling him to kneel before his conqueror. This Loki, for the record, this version of Loki is like the old man Loki.
Yes.
So he's kind of grizzled. He's not Tom Hiddleston hot. He looks a little bit more like the stereotypical comic TM Loki. So this is important to remember as we go through.
I'm just trying to figure out how you get respect in a onesie like that.
So a couple things. I did look it up, and it is 2004. You were originally correct.
Okay.
And yeah, the thing with, like, there is a shot of Loki in this, and he's got like the old man permanently drunk red nose and the I don't have teeth lips.
Yeah.
Except he does have teeth, which is weird. So yeah.
Yeah, he's not attractive throughout this. Really need to point that out.
Okay, I'm done then.
But so he's
over.
Show over. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
he's asking Thor to kneel before his conqueror, and then we kind of pull out, and then the next like large panel we see is Loki directing, he's basically saying, as all of Asgard must kneel before their new and rightful lord, and he is on the dais of the throne, and Asgard appears to be in some trouble.
Yeah, okay.
Thor is chained to like a wooden post. He's bleeding. He's not having a good time.
As one typically would in a situation like that. So that's strange.
It's all about
Mary?
Consent.
Oh, different thing. It's true.
This just in, cis white male forgets the word consent.
Yeah, that's breaking news on Fox somewhere.
Oh, so Loki is like, just fuck it, man, take him to the dungeons. I'm in charge now.
For his blood brother, nice.
Yeah, and so he's kind of taking a stroll through his subjects who are all on their knees before them, and he, as he's walking, he's kind of talking out loud to nobody in particular, because nobody wants to look at him, and he's like, I can't believe that nobody wants to steal a glance at my divine majesty. Used to be around here, everybody thought I was a piece of shit, but I guess everybody's just pretending to suddenly be deferential to me, but that's fine, I'll take it.
Of course.
Yeah, also, I'm just going to jump in and note, all of this is going to be done in Leia's voice because we don't speak in Kenneth Branagh, which is what this is written in.
Yeah, you gotta hear the when you're reading the panels. That's all I heard.
But come, it was not so long hence when all here freely looked upon us with disdain and derision. Surely there remains in Asgard one bold enough to make no pretense of sudden fealty.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't understand that. Even the words are too big for me. So yeah, thank you for the interpretation.
I mean, I'm an English major, and I always am amused when Norse is written as Shakespearean, because it should be written like Beowulf, but
yeah. Yeah, but I think, and again, this was written before the MCU, so I really don't know what the excuse is there, or if it was just a stylistic choice that everybody just ran with for 20, 30 years or what. But
this was a Thor comic thing, actually. Was the use of well, people won't know the difference, so Vikings talked like Shakespeare.
Everybody
I mean,
is English.
Yes.
isn't that how we run all the movies anyway? Like,
Well, yes.
you're in Wakanda and they speak English. Like, okay.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that would not necessarily be the case, but we get to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and also we literally have Kenneth Branagh doing Thor movies, so.
So he's walking around through his subjects, and out of the crowd steps a small angry child, and he kicks Loki right in the ass. He's got his back turned to the kid, and he kicks Loki right in the ass. So Loki, of course, is pissed. He turns around and he's like, "Who the fuck dares?"
He has to look down,
and then he has to look down, and there's this little kid who's pissed off. Of course, his mom is trying to pull him back and is like, "Forgive him. He's just a kid. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing." And Loki grabs him and is like, why would you think that I would be merciful of me of all people, basically. And the kid talks back to him. The kid's like, you're not, basically gives him the, like, you're not my real dad type, you can't tell me what to do because you're not my real lord of Asgard.
Oh God, not my, yeah, okay.
And it does give Loki has a flashback. And so we're going to be seeing this a couple times during the course of this story. Loki has a flashback to when he was a child around the same age and telling the same thing to Odin. You're not my real dad. You killed my real dad. You just have me prisoner. And I don't have to do what you say, but if I don't do what you say, then you're going to get, your guardsmen and allies or whatever to come and kick my ass. But I hate you, Dad. You're so mean,
Oh my God. Can I pull the emergency brake for the first time?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I guess this is not necessarily a question specifically about what's going on, but I'm getting some very strong Aladdin vibes. And does Loki get yeeted into the desert and where he'll meet a genie? Or because also I feel like this story's been told before. I mean, no offense to the authors, but
no. Well,
where'd you pick up on this story?
Right. Well, it's kind of funny too, because it's like all of these kind of stories have been done before because they were Norse legends. So, I mean, there is a lot in this as we get into it that, no, he does not meet a genie. He does not get a scarab. He does not touch only the lamp. He does kind of meet a genie later, depending on your interpretation thereof.
Even better.
But I'm impressed with people who can make a really good Loki or Thor story, because you're not just dealing with in comic books, you're dealing with things that have been around for 70 plus years, that continuity, trying to do something new. In this, they're dealing with something centuries old, millennia old, trying to do something fresh with it. So credit where credit is due.
Right.
Yeah.
And depending on, and Dawn, I don't know how much you know about the actual comics side of Loki and Thor and whatever. Depending on the author and when it was written, the authors may or may not pull directly from the Eddas and stuff. Because Thor has its own, Thor and Loki comic Marvel TM, Loki have their own unique things about them that set them different than the traditional Norse myths, but some of the authors will pull in a lot of those Norse mythos as flavor text. So it's interesting.
It's pretty interwoven.
Right. And then they're not exactly the same, they certainly don't keep everything identical to the literal, ancient Norse gods, but they do pull in things from here and there that are that suit the story, and then some things diverge. So it's interesting in that way.
Perfect. Thank you.
But so Loki has this flashback of him telling his dad he's not his real dad. And so he takes the kid and he's like, hey, look, don't believe everything you hear about me. I was once a kid like you, who was angry and, had struggles. But look at all the stuff that I've accomplished. One day, maybe, who knows, maybe you could rule Asgard. And the kid spits in his face.
Oh, dang.
And Loki almost uncharacteristically just kind of pushes him back into the crowd and is like, all right, well, go back. He literally said, wallow in the common herd then. Like,
Fine, go be a peasant.
Right.
What?
If that's how you're going to be, fuck you. But he doesn't kill the kid, and that's important.
Yeah, I would say, so I'm going to do a little pause in here. Like, for somebody to be so triggered that like triggers flashbacks and then turn around and just like be nice to that thing that just triggered you, that's pretty uncommon kind of way to deal with stuff. So
that's a pretty amazing amount of self-control, especially for Loki. So
right, especially for somebody who kind of hangs their reputation on being kind of a short fuse, right?
Right. So that's an interesting point. So kind of keep a pin in that, because we're going to come back to that several times. So he walks into the Asgardian palace, and is like, all right, I finally made it. I'm here. It's I worked so hard for this. I'm so excited. I'm so jazzed. Like nobody could possibly understand how jazzed I am. And he takes the throne, and and then there's another very, very brief, like 1 panel long flashback when he remembers Thor basically just giving him hell. He's got him in this panel, he's got him by the throat. They appear to be like kind of late teens, early 20s ish. And Loki is being held by the throat by Thor, who's got Sif at his side, and they're making fun of him. And he, in the panel and the flashback, he's like, make fun of me all you want. One day, my day, it's gonna be my turn. It's gonna be my day. And he's broken out of this reverie by one of his attendants, who's like, hey, look, we got to talk about domestic security, because the Rainbow Bridge is currently just open. Heimdall, it turns out, has been put in a jail cell by Loki. And so nobody is watching the Rainbow Bridge. And Loki's not really wanting to talk about domestic security right now. The Department of Asgardian Security division has not yet been formed, so he's like, "Yeah, I'll deal with it later."
As all great kings do.
Exactly. Like
it's there to keep giants out, which is why it's called ice.
God. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
I get like 1 or 2 dad jokes per show.
More than that.
There's more to come.
So then he, as he's turning this guy away, somebody else comes up and is like, my lord, and he's like, now what? And it's Lorelei, who is in the Eddas and also in the comics, Thor's wife, lover, what have you. And she's like, I'm here to collect on the promises that you made me when you asked for my help to get where you're at. Did you forget? And
wow, the bill always comes due.
Exactly.
She like, pay up, come on.
And,
that's right.
And he's like, yeah, I didn't forget. I remember. I see that you brought all of your friends. And so basically there's several panels where he is basically just being accosted by everybody wanting their cut in the business, basically, and like, oh my lord, you don't you owe me for this, and oh, don't forget about this this kingdom, and don't forget about and I've been waiting for a really long time, so like, make haste. And so he's getting kind of frustrated because he's being constantly hassled by everybody.
Right. He just wanted to sit in the big fancy chair. Like,
right.
Where did all these people come from?
And yeah,
leave a guy alone. Come on, can't he have 5 minutes?
The minute he's got butt in seat, yeah, he's been ruler for about 15 minutes, and people are like, oh my lord, the river, needs a new dam, can you pay for it?
I have bigger problems to worry about. Okay.
The dragon is weak to lightning. That's fantastic NPC. Do you have anything else to say? The dragon is weak to lightning.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So he's like, you know what? Fuck this. This is, everybody wants a piece of me. I'm gonna go. You guys can all fuck off. And
sure.
So he leaves the throne room, and he's like, oh, finally I'm alone. And he gets into his private chambers, and sure enough, there's somebody else in his private chambers, and it's a concubine who's been sent there by the Norn queen Carnilla.
Oh,
and she's like, well, basically, you've seen Coming to America, I presume.
Oh God, so long ago.
Yeah, okay, it's basically like the opening of Coming to America, like.
The royal penis is clean.
Oh no. Oh wait, can we just do a quick insert of what consent is again?
Right.
Yeah.
We just throw that back in there now that we've ironed out that definition.
So she's like, I'm a gift from the Norn queen, Carnilla. What can I do to please you, my lord? And he's like, you know what? You can run this fucking kingdom for me. It sucks. Get out of here.
What? No, no, that's not what he said.
He says, it's right. It's not what he says. He says, run this tiresome kingdom for me, is what he says exactly.
How you sit there flashbacks to dreams of having the throne. You're there for 15 minutes. You're like, somebody take the fucking wheel.
Yeah, I feel like it's that way anytime you get a promotion and you get
you're like, I've been doing this anyway, and then you're like, what the hell is all this?
Suddenly Loki finds himself in a management position, and then he realizes that he never wanted to be in management, and that's kind of where it's at.
Oh God, I pray we all take just 15 minutes to figure that out. You might be able to reverse
Although I will say this could have been a stroke of genius, because if I take over the world, I'm making sex workers my middle management. Do you understand how much shit they've had to deal with?
My God, they can navigate things like nobody's business.
Right?
Exactly.
This
they can manage
could have been
things
genius.
at once. Oh yeah, that's true. That's solid. This, that's true. That's where you break off a horn and give it to somebody. I don't know. Is that how it works? I don't know.
Here, have the horn of speaking.
Yeah,
that's right.
But so he's like, no, I don't want to fuck right now. Get out of here. And she leaves just in time. And as she's walking out the door, bam, Hela is here. And Hela looks very different than what we've seen in the movies. And frankly, I don't know, Josh, have you read a lot of Thor and Loki, or are you more versed in this?
I have not.
Okay.
So I do know that the way that they went about it in Ragnarok is different than the comics. Hela is not a sister to Thor. She is just the she rules hell. She's as the Norse tradition, more Hela. But this reminds me of God, what's her name? Oubliette.
Yes,
we've run into a few times. Hela is in bondage gear. There's a lot of not great representation of women in this, even those strong ones.
So the panel after, I need to point this out specifically. If you ever pick this up, Dawn, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about the minute you see this panel. you see her, and so the first scene you get of her is she's wearing this it's a strapless kind of bodysuit, but it's got it's one of those weird corsety kind of things. There's just a little bit of fabric to cover the nipples, but she also has a big giant cape and gloves and thigh highs, but the actual bodysuit itself is a bare scrap of fabric that doesn't even cover, how normally a bodysuit would cover the hip.
Something.
It doesn't even do that. It's cut so high that it's almost like a T shape.
The pelvic area,
just sticking way out.
To the vagina, like all of the flesh up until vagina. Like
Yeah.
it is.
It looks like they purchased this outfit on Yandy.
I got it from wish.com.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And
Also,
I like how it wasn't a lack of materials because we managed to make a cape and some.
Also, she's a queen, so
yeah,
and thigh-high boots, of course.
And you know what? Maybe that's just her aesthetic.
She's got like a Batman-like cowl on, except for without the ears. So imagine Batman's cowl without the ears, and that's what she's wearing over her head. So her hair is covered, everything is covered. It's a very weird look. I don't love it.
Everything is covered except the things that probably should be covered.
Right? And I like that it seems like she's ready to go to one of those rich person parties where everybody wears a mask and pretends they don't know each other.
Like Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes. Just her Eyes Wide Shut outfit on. Okay.
Yeah, she does. And there's a panel. So after that first introductory panel, there is a panel of her like coming down because apparently she was like flying or something. And she kind of, lands in this throne room, and her body is twisted in such a way that I can't quite figure out what the artist thought they were doing except maximizing the amount of ass and titties available to see for the viewer.
Yes, that is absolutely it.
She is bent at the waist in such a in a laughable way. Like a real body cannot do this type of way.
I feel like that's the way my cat would probably look at me, with the butt and the face facing me at the same time.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that seems like something my cat Winston would do. Totally.
Although the face is facing not quite away. It's just like, look at my boobs, but also look at my butt.
So yeah. And then I'm looking two W's together and you're done.
And I'm looking to the side. Yeah. The only flattering thing that I can say is that they were somewhat modest on the breasts. It's not like it's comic book titties.
Oh, that would take up the entire 2 pages.
Yes.
A whole panel of just tits.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't understand the design choices in this. The art is not bad. It's just her character depiction sucks, in my opinion.
I do have a question though.
Yes.
Does she land in a superhero pose?
No.
No.
She goes down and then just keeps floating like right above the floor.
Okay.
So she's very much doing a power play where she has dropped, but then she stops where she's still looking down on Loki.
Oh, smart.
Exactly. Yeah. So she comes in and she's like, "Hey, look, hey, I'm here." And Loki's like, "Hey, welcome." And she's like, "Hey, that was a smart move because, even though we are both monarchs in our respective right, you could still become my subject because all I need to do is touch you, because she's the goddess of death." And so he's like, "Okay, like what did you come here for? What do you need from me, basically?" And she's like, "Oh, nothing, no big deal. I just want Sor's immortal soul." And he chokes. He is in the middle of drinking out of like a mead horn or whatever, and he like legit chokes on his beverage and is like, "Excuse me."
Just nothing, no big deal. It's like, oh, I was just gonna do a load of laundry.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, okay, that's a big request.
And she's like, what's the problem? I don't understand why you look so shocked. Like, I've wanted this guy's soul forever. Just tell me when I can have him. And Loki plays kind of dumb. He's like, "I don't understand what you're talking about. What day are you talking? What do you mean what day? Like, name the day. What day?" And she's like, "The day that you execute him, obviously, because you want to kill him, don't you?"
Right.
You've always wanted to kill him. You said this like a billion times, dude.
Right. You can't just take it back now.
Right.
It's already out there.
And he kind of stumbles a little bit, and he's like, well, I never said he was going to die. I just, I want him to feel bad. So maybe, I never said I was going to kill him. Who said that? Nobody said that.
That guy said it. Execute that man.
Right. It was probably the 5-year-old that spit on him. Like, oh, it was that one. Yeah, I don't believe that one.
Find that child.
Find that child.
So, so she's like, "Okay, well, whenever you're ready, I'll take it. But do remember that, you're king now. You better follow up on what you said you were going to do. and give me what I want. And if you fuck with me, I will fucking kill you. I will straight up fucking kill you. Because again, I'm the goddess of death.
My
Good luck
Clark.
out there. And so Loki's kind of shaken by this exchange. He's like, oh shit, like I'm, she's kind of right. Like, I'm not the trickster god anymore. Like, I've played my final trick and taken Asgard. What do I do? Like, who am I without this guy?
Oh, a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah.
Fun.
And he's like, who is, he says, what is Loki without Thor? Which, then leads us to this other flashback. They look to be in like their teens. And they're learning at the foot of a teacher of theirs. And it seems to be that they're learning philosophy. And Thor is talking about, if dark truly defines light must define the darkness. Loki is kind of sitting off to the side a little bit and like playing, like essentially doing some Asgardian doodling. He's got a stick and it looks like he's just kind of like doodling on the ground with the stick. And the teacher's like, hey, pay attention. And so he is reminded, like, okay, we're kind of bound together. Like, we are not who we are unless we have each other to constantly, antagonize and defend against. Like, I don't really know, like, the only way this cycle is going to end is if he dies or I die. So meanwhile, in Jotunheim, which is the realm of the ice giants, a messenger comes with news from Asgard about Loki deposing Odin. And a mysterious hooded figure hears the name Loki and is like, and wanders off. And that's where that ends.
How does it end there? That makes no sense.
Well, it's we return back to Asgard, and Loki is going to visit Thor in his cell. And the guards let him know, hey, look, it's kind of a surprise visit, and they're like, holy shit, hey, we weren't expecting you. And he's like, oh no, it's just, it was just a whim of mine. I just want to visit my brother. And
it was in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd pop in. Normal people doing normal things.
Regular king stuff. Nothing to worry about.
So the guards let him know, like, well, I don't know how fun this is going to be for you, because he hasn't talked since we brought him down into these cells. The guard's like, yeah, I hope that he kind of gets his spirits back in order. Otherwise his execution is really going to be boring. And Loki again is like, why does everybody keep saying that I need to kill this guy? This is crazy.
Where did you get this idea?
Right. I don't know who told you.
Right.
Was it the child?
Was the child? Did anybody find that kid yet?
So they're like, don't worry, we've made it safe for you, and Loki's like, well, I don't need to be made safe for me. Like, I defeated him in battle. He didn't defeat me. Like, I can kick his ass again.
Oh my God. The sibling rivalry is like,
it's it's very well done in this, I will say.
It's like, this could be a great poster for, boys will be boys and all that rhetoric. Because that's what it seems to boil down to. It's like, who am I going to make fun of? I can't get rid of him. Like, who am I going to yell at?
So Loki comes upon him, and of course Thor is bound up in chains in this cell, and he's kind of hanging a little bit and covered in blood. He's got some wounds, on his chest, and looks like he's kind of been poked with a spear a couple times or something, like probably Loki's spear.
Your own. You were so nice.
and then Loki has a little bit of a flashback again to Thor, basically asking him, like, why are you staring at me? And Loki's like, oh, I didn't realize I was. And he's like, oh, well then, then knock it off. basically like, I know that I'm good looking and perfect and like the golden one, like go fuck yourself, basically. Kind of makes
So,
fun of him for looking at him, like what you looking at, bro? Like,
right. So my question then becomes, are they about to kiss? Because this sounds like some stuff that would have happened when you were 13. Where you're like, I'm not looking at you. Why were you looking at me? Because if you were looking at me, then maybe I was looking at you. Like, what's happening?
It's interesting because there is a very subtle, and I don't know if this is just me reading queer text into it, but like
it sounds like it. I'm picking it up too. So
there's a little bit of like some subtext. There's like basically like,
loverish.
Yeah, because he says, and the direct quote is, "Such scrutiny is sufficient to unman a storm giant." And so there's a little bit of subtext, like, and we do know canonically, both in the comics and of course in the Norse mythos, that Loki is pretty much pansexual. So like, interesting little bit of flavor there. Doesn't go anywhere. They don't make out or touch butts or anything, but like, interesting little pin in that.
Yeah, it's because it gives vibes. That's all.
Right. Exactly. And so a guard comes upon Loki, who kind of snaps back out of it and is like, "Hey, is everything good?" And Loki kind of pops off on him and is like, "I've wanted this my whole life, and now I've gotten it, and now you're asking me if everything is well? Like, fuck you. I can't believe you doubted that I wanted to kill this dude. I totally want to kill him. I bet you don't want me to kill him, but I'm gonna fucking kill him."
And who didn't think I could do it?
Right.
Who doubted
Right?
me?
Yeah.
It's the boo box for you.
Well, and it's so crazy because it's such backstepping. Like,
Right.
This whole time you're like, this is my goal, and you achieve your goal, and like, what the fuck goal is this?
Right. And he has
not what I
doubts.
expected.
He has these doubts because every time, he has these memories, this long history with him. So he's like, on one hand, yeah, he does want this guy out of his life, but at the same time, like, remember those fun times we had, like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, I wish we could go back to where I would stick a frog in your pocket instead of where I turned you into a frog.
Right.
And so, okay, so another emergency break moment, because I know it's long, but I'm not sure if I know how long. How long have they been brothers then?
Eternity. I mean, it's
Yeah.
That's the easy answer. Okay, forever.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's if you go by the theory that Asgardian society is Norse legend, which is where they take this in the Marvel universe. So, ancient Norse people, there was contact from Asgard to Midgard to Earth, and that they wrote down their stories because they were just intermingling like a motherfucker. Yeah, I mean, millennia.
Yeah. And there's actually a point, and I will get around to it, because there's actually a point that wraps up towards the end of the story that may partially answer your question.
Oh, okay.
But to tell you it now would basically ruin the entire story, so we're not going to go there just yet, but hopefully it will assist.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Loki's like, you know what, fuck this. Give me the, Warden, come here, give me your keys. I got some other visits to make. And so he goes into a different cell, which is completely dark. And at first he doesn't see anything in there, until his eyes kind of adjust to the darkness a little bit. And we see Sif, who is also chained up, bloodied, beaten. And so in the beginning, earlier when we saw that flashback with Thor and Sif had beautiful blonde hair. This woman does not. This woman looks like Jamie Alexander. She's got the dark hair. And that is where we end the first issue. So this is actually, was it 4 issues or 6 issues, Josh? I can't remember.
4.
Okay. So we're quarter of the way through. And that's where the first issue ends. So we pick up on issue 2, and Loki and Sif are meeting in her holding cell, and she's like, "Oh, I see, you've come here to gloat and rub some salt in the wound." And he's like, "No, sorry, yeah, I normally would, but you're too ugly for me to get any joy out of it now that I've ruined your beauty.
What an odd flex, but okay.
Yeah. And so the guard's about to leave, and Loki's like, nah, you know what? I want to hear what this bitch has to say.
Of course, because he has to pretend like he doesn't care when he does. But anyway,
right.
Just something I noticed.
And Sif is like, oh yeah, why would you come here? Like, I get it now. Like, why would you come here to brag about your victory? To somebody who basically can't be broken by your bullshit. So Loki has another brief flashback to a battle where Sif and Thor and he are all fighting, and Sif is kicking ass, and Thor and Loki are also out in the battle.
But Sif's the one handling business.
Sif is handling business. Mm-hmm. And so they get done with the battle, and Sif basically just insults Loki while boosting up Thor, and because they're like, hey, do you need our help, to Sif, who's like wrapping up stabbing somebody. And she's like, no, it looks like, to Thor, she's like, it looks like you need my help because I'm just beating up some trolls, but you are in the cringing horror of Laufeysen's company.
Oh geez, wow, sick burn.
Yeah, sick burn. And then Thor laughs. He's like, yes, and
sick burn indeed.
and jumps down to go help Sif out, and Loki's just kind of standing there, like looking sad. And Sif, he kind of flashes back to the present now, and he's like, hey, shut the fuck up. And Sif's like, no, you did this to me, basically, you cut my hair off, which is, again, from the Eddas. That's actually something that happens. And so he cut off all of her beautiful blonde hair because he was pissed that she had mocked him in that way. And
wait, that's when she cut off his hair, after that incident that he's flashing back to?
So he cut off her hair.
He cut off her hair.
I said that wrong.
And at some unspecified point after that, he cut off her hair.
It's basically implied that was
that precipitating event.
Yes, and so how long it took him to plan it, but it was probably not too long after.
Okay.
Yeah, so while she's sleeping, he came in and basically shaved her head, like a college frat prank.
Dick move. Yeah. Like, no, not cool.
But she mentioned,
once again, consent.
Yes,
exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. So but she's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I forgive you because the dwarves, Brock and Eitri, who you may remember from Endgame, basically made her this magical wig, so she has her hair back, except that it's black instead of blonde. And she's like, don't worry about it because your brother finds my new do way hotter. And
because it's all about my worth to a man.
Yeah.
Always. And I like that seems like a subtle stab that kind of gets at that weird vibe from before. Not weird by any means weird, but that vibe from before is like, haha, I can get my man.
Right. Because it is kind of implied low key, very, very low key, that Thor that Loki would rather be banging Sif, and Sif doesn't. Sif likes to remind him constantly that, like, not with a 10-foot pole.
Oh geez.
And so, she continues taunting Loki and is like, hey, look, you thought that you were gonna, you thought that this, that by cutting off my hair would, it'd be a real boner killer for Thor, but it wasn't. And we don't care. And actually our sex is hotter now.
That's like confessions from a jail cell. It's very strange.
Right.
Like it's very odd timing to be like, that's what you're focused on right now. You're in jail.
Right. But I think again, it's just because it kind of goes back to the fact that basically, Loki is the horny creep that has been like, man, one of these days, like it's
right.
my turn. And she's
I'm
like,
gonna stick it to
not.
her, and she's
right.
like, I'm sticking it to your brother, so no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she's like, absolutely not, sir.
Right. Well, thank you to stay out of my personal affairs. Like, get out.
So as she's taunting him, he's getting pissed, and he gets closer and closer, and sure enough, because he's got his guard down, she manages to grab him by the throat, and even though she's chained up, starts just whooping his ass and choking him out. He calls for the guard. The guard, who's like in the other room, is like, huh, what's going on? And is very slow to come to his rescue, but does finally do so.
He's like, I'll take my time. If you die, you die. I mean,
right.
Stuff like that happens all the time. I don't know what to tell you.
And so as soon as he kind of gets his wind back, Loki is like, how dare you, basically respond so slowly? Did you think she was right? Did you think that I deserved to have my ass kicked? What's wrong with you? She admitted that she wanted to drive a wedge between me and my brother, and she did. And she hates me, and she thinks that I'm stupid.
Is this paraphrasing?
Yes, because I'm not going to go through the old English.
Old English, no. But to be like, and he hates me. I go, yeah. Oh my gosh. Like I am having I am like the ping ponging between I love him, I hate him, I love him, I hate him is honestly just giving me a headache.
Yeah.
Pick a side, man. Come on.
I need to point out, as the oldest of 5 siblings myself, like I feel this.
Fair.
I feel it. Yeah. I've had some contentious relationships with my siblings in my time, and I totally get this. Like,
go away, come back.
Times. Remember all the fucking horrible times.
Right.
Fair. This is fair. And the crazier thing too about like dynamics like that relationally is that you start to believe them yourself.
Right.
And that's why that's why I'm really enjoying sort of the way these panels kind of play out, is that you're doing, this is like, I've been listening to a different podcast. I'm sorry. And what they talk about is what they talk about in particular is like about cults, is this prison of the mind. And that really kind of, that seems to play out a lot with this Thor Loki relationship on Loki's side. Anyway, it always seems like Thor couldn't give less than a shit. and Loki's like losing his fucking mind over all this stuff.
Right.
He's the younger, he's the younger sibling, right? He's like,
right.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
It's like, remember why mom and dad don't buy hollow core doors anymore? Because we just put each other through them.
Right. Oh, my mom always says there's someone to blame for every rule. So like,
yep.
There's someone to blame for that. Like, yeah, that's what happens. I guess it's evolving, but my mom likes to blame people instead.
No. I mean, even Homer Simpson is like, see, Marge, I'm the reason they made that law. What do you say? I'm the reason they have that sign.
That's right. Oh my God. It's like Loki's law somewhere. Figure out what that is.
So Loki gets back up and he's like, you know what? Because of you bitch, Thor's gonna die at dawn.
Oh. I don't know why you had to bring me into this, but that's okay.
And God. And so she's like, no, you wouldn't dare. And he kind of slams the cell door, in her face, essentially. And it's just like, and so she calls him Loki Lackeyson.
Wow.
And, yeah. And brutal. He remembers, he has another brief flashback to his childhood of a bunch of Asgardian kids calling him Lackeyson and making fun of him. And he's like, I almost forgot. He's talking to himself again. He's like, I almost forgot about that. And
his Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer moment.
Yes.
The time he was allowed to play the other reindeer games or whatever it is.
He is.
That works. God. Actually, he's got the horns. Yeah. Like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyway.
that metaphor works better than I expected. Yeah, no,
Right. I'm like, wait, actually that had some merit to it. Awesome.
And we did mention earlier how he kind of has that little that sort of reddish nose. Oh no, it's
Oh
a Christmas
no.
story.
Oh, who would have thunk it? Oh gosh.
Loki is Krampus.
Yes, Loki is Krampus. It's like Die Hard, how it's like not a Christmas movie, but somehow still is.
Right.
This will be like that. This is the next Die Hard. You heard it here, folks.
So as he's having again this revelation, this poor man cannot get a moment's peace. Because just as he's
From
like,
his
"Oh,
own
man,"
brain.
he's like, oh, I almost forgot that they used to call me that. And somebody from behind him is like, who are you talking to?
Oh no.
And it's Carnilla, who we mentioned before, who's the queen of the Norns.
Mm.
And she's like, hey, I thought that you might want to see me because I've been your ally, but I'm not here to party. I came to see Balder, and where is he at? I can't find him anywhere. And Loki's like, oh man, I locked him up. And she's like, well, you told me that you were going to spare his life and that you would give him to me. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I did. He's still alive. But I didn't say exactly when I was going to give him to you. I just said I would. And
right.
And she's like, don't fuck with me, dude. I'm not somebody you want to fuck with. And I could easily turn against you. So maybe rethink your plan a little bit.
So I have a question.
Yes.
What's her superpower? Because he's also got the goddess of death, like threatening to just touch him. So
the Norns are not something I know a ton about, to be quite honest. They're
like
not...
when she makes those threats, is that something that like should be taken seriously?
She's a monarch.
Superpower,
right?
She's another monarch. She's the Nornheim is where she lives. And rules over. It's like part of Asgard, but not. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah, they're unfortunately not super well versed in Norse mythology, but it's just
come on.
Yeah, Nornheim is another realm, so she's like queen of the Norns.
Okay.
But I don't
think
she
might got something that's worth threatening with.
Yeah,
you just don't know what it is. Okay,
it's fair. Basically like, hey, I'm the king of Portugal. Don't fuck with me, king of France.
Right.
Right? Okay, fair.
I mean, she is paid respect because Nornheim is where the three Norns, the goddesses of destiny, dwell. And she's like major sorcerer.
Okay.
She's the genie.
Oh yes. Okay.
So
it's too exciting.
So we cut over again to in Jotunheim, and that mysterious cloaked figure that we saw earlier is now making a progress, if you will. Kind of punches through this dimensional door from Jotunheim into Asgard, and just the only thing we see this hooded figure say is Loki. It just takes a walk out of Jotunheim into Asgard, and is apparently on a quest to see Loki. So we'll get back to that. That's going to be a recurring thing for this.
I have a question, and you let me know if I need to wait until after. Did this shadow figure use the Rainbow Bridge?
No.
Interesting.
She punched a random door type thing. It glowed, and she walked through it and was in a field in Asgard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's as we know both from the MCU and from the comics, the Rainbow Bridge is not the only way in and out of Asgard. It's just the most common way to get there. Okay. So it's like, taking 9094 into the city. You could also take 294. You could take
Ogden.
You could take Ogden. And either way, you're in the city, but most people are going to take 9094.
Right.
Glad I could clear that up.
Just in case anyone was curious.
Local traffic news.
Exactly. Yeah. Have the chopper out in a second.
So Loki is on the march through the palace and is like, and the Queen of the Norns is right behind him, is like, hey, I'm a big deal. Don't fuck with me, bro. And he's like, God, this bitch, leave me alone.
Everybody trying to get something from Loki.
Exactly. And so he gets himself out of the prison and slams the door behind him. And just as he does, of course, again, can't get a moment's peace the minute he thinks he's alone. Again, from off to the side, somebody's like, hey, well done, dude. And he realizes he's in Baldur's cell. And he actually had not intended to be there. That's just where he wound up. And Baldur's like, hey, look, you seems like you were running from my lover and then ran right into me.
Destiny. Curious.
Right. And so Loki's like, hey, look, talk all you want. I'm not going to be here for long. And Baldur's like, oh, well, are you in a big hurry to kill Thor? And Loki again is like, what are you talking about? Who keeps saying this?
Find me that child.
Find me that child, right? Gosh, that's like the rumor mill times a million.
Yeah. And Baldur's like, dude, haven't you said it like a billion times before? Like, were you just bullshitting?
Don't say that.
I thought,
like literally, it's your voicemail message.
Yeah, exactly.
You've reached Loki, going to kill Thor.
Going to kill Thor. Did you not take out that billboard? Like, come on, we all see it.
It's your AOL away message, dude. It's been that way since 1996.
Loki kills Thor at Hotmail or at AOL.com.
I'm gonna kill Thor. Here's a 9 Inch Nails quote.
Right.
He's just like, why does everybody think this about me?
Right. And so Loki is like, wait, do you want me to kill him?
Oh, okay.
And Baldur's like, well, good luck out there trying. And Loki's like, yeah, nice try, but you'll hear about it. You won't be able to witness it, of course, because I got you locked up, but you'll hear about it when it's done. Don't worry about it. And Baldur's like, yeah, again, it's not going to get done, but good luck out there.
Yeah, you put in a good effort, kid, but nobody believes you.
And Loki's like, hey, do you realize this is the longest conversation we've ever had?
What?
And so he mentions, he's like, when we were growing up, Thor was the one who always got down on me. Him and all of his friends, really took a lot of delight in tormenting me and making me feel bad, making fun of me, except for you. You were just as bad, however, because you didn't pay the least bit of attention to me. You completely disregarded me at all turns. And we see a flashback of Loki kind of approaching Baldur, who's playing this little harp. He's surrounded by little Asgardian birds. And, they're both younger. And Loki's like, wow, even the birds are singing for how beautifully you're playing this music. And Baldur's like, yep, they sure are.
Yeah.
and Loki's like, can you teach me how to do this? That's really cool. And Baldur's like, no, I gotta play. I'm gonna play my harp. Get out of here. Get lost. Just completely disregards him. He talks about, is Baldur the brave, Baldur the golden, Baldur the adored.
But that one time he did one thing and that didn't work.
Yeah. Like, everybody loved you. What I wouldn't have given to have you think about me even once. That's kind of sad.
I want to know what love is.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on there for sure, because you're like sitting there pushing everyone away, but then being sad that they're gone, and then trying to bring them closer and then pushing them away again when you do that. Like,
right. And that's just such a Loki thing to do, right? And that's the one thing that's consistent I feel in the comics in both the MCU is like he clearly wants attention and care and love, and has no idea how to go about it, and he thinks the best possible way is to make everybody hate him, and
Right.
you don't even really seem to do it on purpose half the time.
It seems like it's just a natural reaction,
right? But we'll get to a little bit more of unpacking that a little bit later on, because it is important. But but yeah, so Balder's like, hey, look, if you wanted my attention, why are you trying to kill me? Like, what's going on? And Loki's like, hey, look, I was crazy jealous about you, bro. Everybody loved you, and nobody cared for me at all. And he's like, I've tried, but you don't get it. Like, you don't get what it's like to be me. Nobody's ever made fun of you. Nobody's ever, mocked and insulted you. Everybody thinks you're cool. And Balder's like, look, dude, you also tried to fuck with me. I don't, you're right. I don't know what it's like to be you, but I kind of don't want to.
Which is fair, because you kind of giving off all sorts of flags.
Yeah.
There's also a pretty major flag when he points out that Odin and Freya loved Balder.
Right.
Oh, so yeah, that'll trigger your feelings of inadequacy.
Mom and dad loved you more than me.
Mm-hmm.
And so Balder is like, hey, look, you're Lord Loki now, and I'm chained up in this dungeon, but I know more about eternity and about essentially the multiverse than you do. And Loki's like, hey, hold up, what was that now?
Put that in reverse.
And Balder explains that so he had attempted, Loki had attempted to trick somebody into killing Balder. It obviously did not work. But when he was hit by this arrow, he briefly went to Hell. And when I say Hell, what I mean is the traditional Norse Hell, Hel, not Hell is in the Christian Hell. This distinction is important, because this is Norse mythos, there is no Christian Hell, and two, so Hell in Norse mythos is just the land of the dead. It is not a place to be punished, nor is it a place to be it's not Valhalla.
Okay, it's like when you're sent to your room to think about what you did.
Yeah, it's kind of like general admission afterlife.
Oh God. Oh, that's where the party is still.
Right.
So, okay.
So he's like, I walked, I went to the land of the dead. I peered over the precipice of eternity, and I know a lot about gods and the stuff about gods that gods themselves do not understand or know about. And Loki's like, you're full of shit, dude.
Right? Like, how's this the first time you're telling anybody about that? I call bullshit.
Right. And so
you're just saying that so I don't kill you. You stop.
Balder informs him, he's like, there are many Lokis. Just as there are many Thors and many Balders, everybody exists apart from the others. But they are tied together by a shared, what he says is a shared essence, like branches on a tree. So everyone is distinctly themselves and yet constrained by certain universalities. Sometimes these Lokis have different names. Sometimes he has different roles, like he talks about in one, Loki is Odin's adopted brother, not his son. And in another, he is father to Hela. He talks about how he's seen a female Loki. He's seen who gave birth to Odin's horse Sleipnir, which is again out of the Eddas. I've seen him successful at killing Balder. I've seen, the fall of Asgard. I've seen whatever, but like always these things, always Loki, you always play the same role. And there are things that you don't have the power to change. You are always pretty much in the same position, even with these little variants, which I'm going to go ahead and call them now. These Loki variants always pretty much play the same position. I've never, and out of all of these things I've seen, out of all these Loki variants I've seen across again, I'm going to call the multiverse. It's never actually just expressly called that in this story, but fair. We know what we're about here.
Right. We know what that word means.
So I've seen all these Loki variants across the multiverse, but I've never seen one rule. There has never been a Loki who has ruled Asgard.
And still, so far, he hasn't, because he left the post after like 4.5 minutes. So
right.
That is correct still, I think. Title or not, you didn't do the work yet.
Exactly. You know,
and promotion, and you're just sitting there like you're gonna have to do something first before that kicks in.
Yeah. And he tells him, he's like, I've seen you, so discord and be the aggressor. I've seen you in hundreds of conflicts. But never as Lord. The God of misrule cannot rule. You know this to be so, even without knowing it. You know that is true. That is your role.
And you know this,
right,
man.
Oh my goodness.
So this
wow, and all he did was like get lost, and all of a sudden he's like imparted on all this knowledge of multiple Lokis, and
right.
All he did was die a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. He got better. I mean, but this fucks Loki up, and so
how could it not?
He bolts out of this cell and is like, "No, absolutely not!" And he runs. He is running through the palace. He's freaked out, and because he's like, he has been told, he's like, my destiny, I am fated to lose. And
that's a big burden to carry.
Right, and the architect of my torment is just destiny. I am always going to be miserable,
like no matter what I do,
there is nothing I can do to change this. My fate is always to be somebody that is disliked and made fun of.
I was gonna say, and I think the most important point is the butt of everyone's jokes,
right,
because it's not necessarily about post, it's about reputation and what he thinks he's owed. We can get into a larger conversation about what that looks like, but we don't.
Yeah, and he directly says, is to be Loki to be without hope. And if
right,
so,
is there no way to change destiny?
Right. If so, who can I appeal to? What God can I appeal to for mercy if I myself am a God? I can't appeal. There's nobody that I can even go to say, help me.
Right. I'm at the top level, so there's nobody above me.
Yeah. I am the CEO of Asgard, and I can't do anything.
I'm the CEO of Loki's. Who I don't know where to file my complaint.
Right.
There is nobody.
So he's like, I have to know, but I have to be sure. And then we cut over to a place called the Plain of Ida, which is, again, I assume part of Asgard. Like, it looks like their farming community. And this cloaked figure is still is moving through this town and appears to be significantly larger than the members of this town. Tall, even.
Like a giant.
Almost. One could almost say giant-like.
Interesting, but still shrouded in like a cloak or shadow.
Yeah. Can't see its face or anything like that.
Right. Also, all of the clothes like coming off it are tattered.
Yes, like in rags.
Oh.
And so comes upon this little farming village and is like, Loki, and a little peasant hiding behind like a couple bales of hay or whatever is like, and then he's not here, man, he's at the capital, leave us alone.
Right.
He don't Bunbury here.
Right.
Yeah. We wouldn't even try to hide him here. Like, I don't know why you're out here.
So they're fleeing from this giant thing who's looking for Loki, and it continues on its progress. So we flash back now. We are now into back to Asgard, and Loki's like, hey, he was approaching a guard, and he's like, I didn't tell you to leave me alone. And the guard's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you wanted some privacy. And Loki's like, look, I'll tell you when I want some privacy.
Well, he also says, I did, but you shouldn't have guessed that I did.
Right.
Like bitch, I might have.
Right.
Yeah, you guessed,
but why
right,
are you
but probably
listening?
should have said something about it. Like,
like, why? Who told you to listen to me? Like, okay, that's confusing. Your Majesty, I guess. I don't know.
So the guard reminds him that the Norn Queen is still out there looking for him. Like, hey, remember that broad you were running from? She still wants to talk
still
to you.
on hold on line 3. Do you want me to tell her to keep holding?
And so Loki's like, you know what? Fine. Send her to the palace. Tell her to come here.
Oh, geez.
So
tell her to bring ice cream.
he admits her to the palace. So he meets her in the throne room. And the Queen of Nornheim comes in and is like, hey, look, I'm sorry that I was kind of hasty with you, kind of rude last time we talked.
I thought about it, and
I need to apologize. And he's like, look, you straight up threatened me and challenged me, and that's treason, man.
Oh, solid. Okay.
Yeah.
Go straight. Do not pass go.
Right.
Do not collect $200. Straight to treason. All right.
And she's like, wait, you know how I am. My mouth just moves sometimes.
and honestly, if ever an audience for that explanation, it would be Loki, right? Like,
and he does. He takes it.
Also,
well.
I feel a kinship there too.
Yeah. He actually does take it well. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to hurt you.
Right.
In fact,
I can relate.
I'm even of the mind to maybe give you Balder. But first you got to do something for me.
Oh.
And that is where we start issue 3.
Oh,
issue 3 starts instead of picking up where that conversation left off. So we're left on that cliffhanger.
So just hang for a little bit.
Just hang for a minute. We get a really pretty shot of a scaffold being erected underneath, like the way that it's shot is like looking up at what is the world tree in the Asgardian palace, kind of in the background. So there's some scaffolding going up, and Loki, we cut on the next panel over to him, like overlooking, like on a balcony or whatever, overlooking the building of this scaffold. And he's like, look, this is not being built fast enough. This is not, this has got to be finished before dawn so that I can kill Thor.
It's not like he's been planning this his whole life or anything. It wouldn't have just had something already in storage, but okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Wasn't really prepared for this outcome.
Right.
Too much of a chance of somebody being like, hey Loki, why
about that?
Why do you have a gigantic scaffolding, of which, by the way, you have like carved into it Thor must die? Again, we need to talk about how you always say you're gonna kill Thor.
So his one of his attendants is like, hey, I'll let them know to build it faster, but they did only just start it 4 hours ago when you announced that Thor was supposed to die at dawn. So I mean, considering that, it's gone pretty fast.
Like maybe you need to reevaluate your notion of time and calm the hell down.
And he's like, well,
per my previous email.
Per my previous email, make this faster, and also let everybody know who's working on it, that if this isn't done at the specified time, they can join him.
So that means they're gonna have to make more spaces.
I know it logically doesn't really follow, but
no.
Yeah,
you'd be better off to order them some pizza and lemonade and just like double time it. Come on.
Throw them a pizza party,
right? It's what you do as an employer. It's how you keep your staff happy. Come on.
So this guy, this attendant is like, also, I really hate to bring this up, but also I just, the Rainbow Bridge is still unprotected, and maybe we should do something about that. Like we could be invaded, maybe we should put somebody there, or maybe Heimdall. We could get Heimdall back in the job.
Right?
Heimdall said he'll do it.
Yeah, Heimdall said he'll do it. He'll say that he doesn't even read the news. So like he has no feel, he has no stake in politics. He just wants to do his job.
Right.
And Loki's like, yeah, bullshit. He's Sif's brother.
Interesting.
I don't, he may say that he's not going to align himself with any particular political party, but he's full of shit. So my decision on the Rainbow Bridge is just fucking destroy it. America first. We now have an Asgard first policy here, and we are
the key to a good defense is a good offense.
Exactly. Like we're self-sufficient as a realm. We don't need to do any trade with other realms or
right. So take out that bridge, and then we're going to erect a gigantic wall and make Midgard pay for it.
Pretty much.
Oh, that was solid. That's solid.
And the attendant is like, what?
Right? Like, I don't understand how this conversation went in the direction it went. How did we get here? Like driving home after work, you're like, how am I in my driveway?
Yeah, no, and so he's like, I order it to be done to coincide with Thor's execution. I don't want any of his Earth friends coming after us. So
Earth friends.
So yeah, his bitch at home or anything like that, like none of that. And also tell the Queen of the Norns to get her ass in here. And so
somebody's on a roll.
Yeah.
He's also eating a pig's face.
Yes, he's eating
like an apple.
Yeah.
No. Ew. I just don't imagine him as like the fork and knife kind of guy.
No, there is literally like a small pig's head on a knife, and he bites the nose of it.
Okay,
with
like an apple. Oh, gross.
And it's also super gross because like it's a close up on old man Loki face, and he's missing a bunch of teeth.
There's a lot going on.
And like his gums are loose, so like one of the teeth is like pushing out. Yeah,
Ew.
It's gross. He's a gross suit in this comic.
Oh my gosh.
So he meets up with the Queen of the Norns, and the Queen of the Norns, again, a sorceress. He's like, listen, or she's like, listen, this is kind of a big spell that I got to do. I can't do it like fast. This is not something that can be rushed. And he's like, yeah, listen, shut up and do it.
Stop changing the spell, Peter.
Yeah.
I'm getting like the guy, I can't remember what it was from, where he's like, one miracle I can do, like 2, maybe 3 miracles.
Princess Bride.
Is that it? That's where it is, right? I'm getting a little bit of a vibe from that too, of like, calm it the hell down. There's only so much I can do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Turns out your friend is mostly dead.
So she sets up this spell. And the spell, again, is very similar to Doctor Strange in Endgame, like viewing all possible realities. And she's like, hey, look, okay, behold, you wanted to see if there were other yous outside of this.
Oh, this was the favor.
Yeah.
Here I am. Okay.
So this is the favor.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
And we're back.
Yeah.
It's like, you wanted to see the multiverse. Here it is. And so he does. I mean, there's a couple panels where you see different versions of Loki, different Thors. There's a Thor Loki. There's a really weird one that looks like a bird. No alligator Loki. There's one that looks like a vampire.
Oh God, that sounds terrifying.
There's one in like some heavy metal armor. It's the artwork is actually pretty cool.
One that's like a Native American Loki mixed with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the art in this, we should point out, is fucking gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, it sounds very creative too, very innovative.
Even though Loki is not again, he is not Tom Hiddleston handsome in this series. The artwork is very good. Like, do not let me undersell you on that, because the artwork is beautiful. It's just not the character itself is not is
Right.
a little
It's
bit
not the
grotesque.
one that I'm married to. It's
Correct.
It's a different version.
It's not the one that all of us are married to.
Right.
Exactly. Yes, I feel like I can share. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
And
No,
to
as
be
a-
clear, like, it's not Tom Hiddleston. It's
No.
although he's
Right.
fantastic. I have absolutely fallen in love with the way he has portrayed Loki. So
Yeah.
that's where my marriage comes from.
As I've stated many times on the show, my Kinsey scale goes to Ryan Reynolds
Fair.
and Tom Hiddleston.
That's fair. That's fair. It's like
think
straight
that
up
is-
sticks, right?
That is acceptable. I read an article a few years back about a reporter who went to interview Tom Hiddleston for some magazine, and I can't remember which one, and she was not prepared for the
Oh,
level of absolute grace and beauty that man contains. He made her a bolognese.
what?
They spent the day together. They went like it was basically, it was an article. It was like a 2,500 word article about like, I don't know what just happened.
Right.
Since we're taking a break, there was a movie in 2014, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's called Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yes.
I cannot imagine interviewing for that like media scrum, because it was Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston in the same goddamn movie as lover vampires.
Yeah.
Oh my God, right? Oh,
And nope.
Yep. Yeah. I would be unable to lift my eyes from the floor.
Right.
Look at him directly, be like looking into the fucking sun. I couldn't do it.
It's I find that to be the case. There was a movie I just watched and I can't remember, but there were 2 Avengers in it, and I'm just like, this is like an alternate reality in itself, where these are Avengers that are literally in the height of their MCU career, playing like a married house couple. Like,
Right.
what is happening? You're supposed to be
It's-
shooting people with something. Come on.
It's the story about how all Ryan Reynolds movies before Deadpool are just Deadpool prequels.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I can see that, and that definitely fits Ryan Reynolds' MO from what I have seen.
Absolutely.
So fair.
So, all right. So back on
Back
track.
to our regularly scheduled
Back to the
programming.
regularly scheduled
Yeah.
program. So Loki is being shown the multiverse basically by the Norn Queen, and she's like, "Hey, check it out. There you are. How do you feel about this?" And he's like, I don't care. My feelings here aren't important. What I need to know is what fate awaits all of them. And
Oh.
she tells him, look, every single Loki, everyone you see before you right now, and everyone there ever was, and everyone that there ever will be, it all ends the same way. You will be chained to a rock over which a serpent is coiled, and your wife, Lorelai, tries to keep the serpent's venom from being dripped into your eyes, which she does with a small bowl. But unfortunately, on occasion, she has to stop and empty the dish out because it gets full. And during that time, while she is, emptying the bowl out of this venom, the serpent then spits the venom into your eyes. And this happens for the rest of your eternity.
Ooh.
And this is also something that's the traditional Norse mythos. That is the fate of Loki. Loki always ends up chained up with a serpent dripping venom into his eyes. His wife, who loves him, despite everything, despite who he is and what a piece of shit he is, does try to aid him, but she can only do so much. There are going to be times where he does get the venom in his eyes. He curses her out for that. And it just repeats over and over again. So that is true to the original mythos.
I have a question.
Yes.
So because we talked about there is no like heaven and hell, like hell equivalent, essentially. So is he still alive enduring this torture?
Yes.
Yes.
So just the eternity of his lived existence plays out this way.
Yeah, this is straight up Norse mythology.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's treacherous.
Yeah.
Like, who hurt those people?
It's very much like, you think about like the ancient Greek myths of like Sisyphus and the rock.
And there's the question is, what's worse, Loki's fate or Sisyphus's?
Yeah.
I don't know which one that is, so
that one is the one where the guy is being punished in the afterlife, where he has to push this boulder up a hill, and the minute he manages to get it up the hill, it rolls back down again, and he's got to push it all the way back up, and he has to do that forever.
It rolls over him, crushes him, and he finds himself back at the bottom of the hill, having to push the boulder back up again.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So they're all pretty terrible, but the ancient people really had this
they hated themselves.
Yeah, like this big hard on for these eternal meaningless punishments or tasks where it's just the same thing over and over again, repetition, like into eternity, which is enough to drive anybody crazy.
Yeah, which, I mean, or modern day anxiety.
Right. But I mean, looking throughout history, all of our theology, mythology, there's always the never-ending punishment.
Right.
There's always like Torah has it, Bible has it. Like there are people punished forever. Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of one of those human things to think about. Like our modern equivalent is just our own brains reminding us of the shit we did when we were 18 years old once. As we're about to fall asleep.
The things that you didn't do that nobody would even know, and you're just like, oh my gosh, can I get a break here?
Right. The things that nobody even remembers, but you do.
Yeah. Right? And so in this story, the Queen of the Norns tells him, like, look, this is how it plays out for you no matter what. And so Loki immediately is like, enough, I don't want to see this anymore. She's like, I fucking warned you. I told you that this was gonna suck.
How dare you show me that thing that I told you to show me?
Yeah, exactly. What next? You're gonna ask me if I want to kill Thor? Like,
right.
I never said that. Where's that child?
Where's the proof?
Point to me on the document where I say that even once.
Yes, exactly.
But so he's like, he kicks over the cauldron, that she's standing over there giving the visions or whatever. And she's like, I told you that this was going to suck. And there is no greater curse than to foresee one's final fate. But even though I told you not to do it, I still did what you asked. And now I want my reward. And he starts running again. And she's like, don't fucking ignore me. Otherwise worse shit's going to happen to you. But he runs away anyway.
Oh my God. Are there vapor trails in the comic of him running away?
Not quite,
because that's the way I picture it. Like he's like deuces and then just like dips.
So we cut over to what's called the outskirts of Asgard City, where we meet this mysterious cloaked figure yet again, who again is terrorizing some poor like fruit merchants. It was like Loki, and they're like, oh, he's in the palace over there. Leave us alone.
Right. Again, we wouldn't hide him even if we had to.
Right.
You don't buy our fruit.
Right. Exactly.
So we flash back over then again to the prison where Loki is demanding the keys of the warden.
Again? Wasn't he just there like 25 minutes ago?
Oh my God, yes, because the warden is just trying to have some food.
Yeah.
He's just trying to like eat his mutton in peace for 1 fucking minute.
Yeah.
And Loki blows in.
Yeah, Loki literally just rolls in and startles him where he almost chokes on his fucking mutton. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
How dare you cough in my direction? Like, what is happening?
And so Loki now goes to visit Thor, and so Thor is still hanging there chained up. And
I do want to interject with one thing because we mentioned it earlier and Dawn brought it up earlier. Loki has again been through trauma where he has been shown all of this stuff and he's run away. He's actually nice to the warden.
Yeah.
The warden is like, I didn't know you were here. And he apologizes and he says, I'm really sorry for startling you. I just need your keys again. I'll leave you to conclude your meal in peace.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually like, so we're now seeing a pattern where Loki gets traumatized or reminded of trauma, and that's the only time that his reaction is kindness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
It is, and it's actually because the way I'm thinking of it too is like as somebody who works with, and trigger warning for domestic violence, it's very much like the cycle of abuse, except for he doesn't explode on maybe a close personal loved one or whatever. He explodes on a rando, then has a honeymoon phase with someone else, then like everything builds up, and then he explodes on someone else, and then starts the cycle again. It's like the next person he runs into is the person he gets to have the honeymoon phase with and be cordial and deal with his trauma, and then it just builds up and it happens again. It's very interesting.
Yep. No, 100%. I feel like we inadvertently, this is like the second or third time we've done this, where we've inadvertently explained a comic to somebody that fits with their profession or interests.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, use these as things, because again, like I said in the beginning, do not seek your own therapy, please. Do not take what I say as any kind of anything.
Yes.
But it's interesting, to have that kind of perspective,
right?
Families and systems and the way relationships function, all that crap.
No, it's good. It's good to have that. I mean, we had a theologian for original sin, so that kind of stuff. So it's helpful. It's cool. I like getting those perspectives.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic, and I will also say, where were you when we were talking about how Tony Stark needs therapy all the time?
Every time. I'll tell you where I was. I was in the shower, where I typically listen, and I'm sitting in there yelling most of the time along with your guest, like, what the fuck? God damn it, he needs therapy. Who talks like that? Who thinks that way? Like, so that's where I've usually been.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That is definitely some like me time listening. It's like it's like smooth jazz, but I don't like jazz, so that's a bad comparison.
I feel like I sound a little bit better than smooth jazz personally.
Yeah, for sure.
You're listening to the Cool FM.
WMCU-FM. Okay, so he meets up with Thor, and he's like, all right, behold the god of thunder. If what Balder said is true, then it is fated that every time in every universe you always triumph over me.
Oh my god, that's not what she said.
Also, not necessarily what he saw, but his interpretation.
Yes,
right.
And that's the interesting thing, is that he always seems to interpret these, like, what a narcissist too, to be like, everything is about me forever. Like, oh, yes, you won. No, she just said you lost. She didn't say who won technically.
So he's like, do I have to accept this as being just how it is? Do I, like, how is it possible? I've got you locked in this fucking cell, practically unresponsive, right? Because everybody's like, he hasn't said a word since we brought him down here. And somehow you're gonna rally, you're gonna find a way out, and I'm gonna lose and you're gonna win. That even when you've been brought so low, somehow you're gonna find a way to triumph. Like, this is such horse shit, man. I fucking hate this.
And that's crazy, because it's like, you're probably just going to run out the door that's open behind me right now, aren't you? You're probably just going to take the keys out of my hand and run out the door, and you're just going to leave, aren't you? And then he does that, and he's like, see, I knew it. Like, what is happening?
And so we flash again to a fight between the brothers at some point, some unspecified point in their lives. They're fighting on like a snowy mountaintop or whatever, and Thor's like, relent. I'm more than, you'll never be my match, you'll never be my equal. And Loki's like, well, it's true, if you're talking about arrogance, nobody's as arrogant as you are.
Solid jab.
And Thor's like, I hear you now style yourself god of evil, but it requires more than you just nicknaming yourself for you to pass as the god of evil. But before you can get this sentence out, Loki basically just kind of what's that, Josh, what's the wrestling term for this? Insecurity? He insecurities him out of the off.
He sure does.
What the heck is that?
It's a fancy term. It's a very fancy term for our wrestling listeners who also watch wrestling. Where he basically just kind of like catches him by the foot and kind of like hurls him off the mountaintop and
Right. He kicks out his leg.
Yeah.
And like in a way where he's moving forward. The easiest term that maybe non-wrestling people would know is there's a wrestler named Rey Mysterio, and when people are running at him, he'll drop down and like take out their legs so they land on the middle rope. And then he'll run and go and like grab the middle ropes and horizontally go around and kick the dude in the face by spinning around. The first part of that is the insecurity. So basically you're running at somebody, they drop down, with their legs, they tangle up your legs so you trip.
Yeah.
It's not a simple trip, it's like a whole down on
like
my
body.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. And so instead of him going into the ropes, he goes off the side of this mountain and literally is like Loki as he falls. And
I'm sure he came out fine because he wins every time.
Because he always triumphs. And sure enough, Loki's like, I said you were arrogant, and starts trudging down the mountain. And just as he does, there's a burst of lightning, and Thor, appears and is like, hey, nice try. Yeah, nice try.
Because Thor can fly.
Right.
That's right.
And I don't have anything to fear from this storm, from from anything. And so we go back to the present day, where Loki is looking into the cell holding Thor, and he's like, there's been 1,000 unto 1,000 battles, and they all end the same way. You winning, me losing. And he walks in and he's like, he demands that Thor looks at him. He's like, look at me. I brought you this low for the last time. And how many, no matter how many times you've won, that doesn't mean that you can't ever be defeated. And who cares about the multiverse of Lokis? Who cares about all of my variants losing? They're not me. I will.
I'm different.
I'm different. I'm different, and I'm better. And I don't even know if they exist at all. Baller might have just been fucking with me.
Right.
Maybe him and the Norn Queen Carnilla, maybe they conspired together to put this doubt in my head. But I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I got to look forward to killing this guy.
Wow, there's so many plot twists within like 3 seconds.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's a cool, for only being 4 issues, there's a lot to unpack, and there's a lot of cool story here.
Yeah.
So we leave on Thor, who is now in darkness, but we do see him finally open his eyes and kind of look up towards the darkness, implied that he's watching Loki leave. And as Loki walks out, he runs into Lady Frigga, who is, he's like, hey mom, what's going on? And she straight up is like, you need to address me as Lady Frigga. I will not call myself your mother.
You are no son of mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Again, another sick burn.
Right. And so he's like, no, of course you wouldn't. It was probably just fun for you to say that you were my mom in order to abuse me and deny me any care or affection.
See how the next person gets the abuse the minute he has his little revelation and
right?
feels a little bit connected. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, he reaches out to, and he's like, I'm beyond all this now, mother. and reaches out to like kind of caress her cheek in a mocking fashion. And she says, don't touch me. You're a natural. And he's like, you know what's unnatural? You never breastfed me.
What? No, that's
and I'm not shitting you. It's not exactly what is that. Again, I'm translating out of the ye olde English speak, but basically it's like what's unnatural is you denied me. Basically, you denied me breastfeeding because you didn't want to be near me. And she's like, you weren't. I didn't give birth to you. Like I wasn't. Literally wasn't.
I was not lactating. Okay,
right?
I don't know what to tell you about that.
Right,
it's a
like
weird conversation. Just call me Lady Frigga and leave me alone.
Strange conversation about my biology that I wasn't expecting today. Like,
she's like, if you need milk, I can go get you milk.
Right.
What is the hang up?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, it was a metaphor. Anyways. Anyways,
because isn't everything
right? Like, anyways, Ma, like, what do you want? And she's like, well, I went to go visit your father, and he's like, oh, it's not my dad, and you're not my mom, and he's not my dad. Anyways, what's the deal with my dad?
He
what
like,
the hell?
Yeah, well, he even is like, but how can he be my father if you're not my mother? Like,
oh my God, what is with this guy?
He's crotchety.
Yes, I feel like this is one of those people that teaches 5th grade or something and hates life, and so gives you all these ridiculous assignments, and you go to ask questions, and they're like, what, you should figure it out on your own, and you're like, right. I'm literally 10, like what do you mean figure it out? I don't even know.
Literally strange. Just a sidetrack, but like it's interesting that you brought up 5th grade, because in 5th grade, like my teacher was like, oh yeah, just any questions that anybody has. And I was like, okay, great. How did language start? like, and I honestly wanted to know. That's awesome. And she gave me the whole Tower of Babel, and she got done, and I was like, okay, but seriously, how did language start?
Right. Cool story, bro. But the answer to my question would be what?
Right. Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You could tell. And see, this is why I really enjoy working with kids, is because like the second sidebar is because they will call you on your bullshit real quick.
Yeah.
I love it because they're like, no, that actually doesn't track. That's some bullshit. I can smell it. Like, you want to give me the right answer or what?
Right. You can say you don't know. That's acceptable.
That's a thing you can do. Yes.
I will go and do the research on my own. We are only like 10 years away from the internet.
No, I mean,
exactly.
The fun thing that I learned from Hollywood, actually, a friend of the podcast, Mike Tomasek, is because he used to be a kindergarten teacher, is when you don't know the answer to something, you say, well, what do you think?
Nice. That's and that's actually a very good therapeutic technique as well.
Also, he's pulled that shit on me. Hollywood, you're on notice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give away your secrets, Mike. Please let me into your home later for dinner.
I think you're supposed to say spoiler alert or something. I'm not entirely sure.
Earmuffs.
So anyways, back to the story.
Yeah, that's right.
So Loki's like, you know what? Never mind. I'll go see Odin myself. And he goes to visit Odin. And Odin's just kicking it in a cell. And Odin's like, hey, I'm a little surprised to see you here. I didn't think you were gonna come. And Loki's like, why is that? And he's like, oh, because I thought you'd be too ashamed to be in my presence. And Odin's like, I failed in you. I failed. And
well, Loki's also like, where my shame gland is, there's a second awesome gland instead.
Right. And Loki's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I know, as you surely always knew, that you succeeded very well with me. And Odin's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
You're just talking to hear yourself at this point.
Right. And Loki's like, you killed my dad, my real dad, which you are not, by the way. You are not my real dad.
Right. In case we missed that part.
In case we missed that part. You're not my real dad. And you murdered my dad. And you kidnapped me. And that was pretty fucking horrible. That's a pretty horrible way to start off. And Odin's like, well, I defeated Laufey by, according to the rules of engagement, he died an honorable death. And I did not dishonor myself by killing him. Like, we knew what we were doing on the field of battle. We met as equals, and I killed him.
Wow, solid murder defense too. Like, okay.
Like, I get it, but okay. Seems like toxic masculinity to me, but anyway.
A little bit, maybe.
We had just seen Hamilton. A duel sounded like a really cool idea.
Right. I didn't know the other gun was loaded. I mean...
And Loki's like, yeah, well, what the fuck do the rules of engagement say about kidnapping somebody's son? And Odin's like, well, it was to honor Laufey that I took you. You were a true prince. You were the heir to an honored warrior. And Loki's like, you're full of shit. I was a means to.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
In this, do we know? Because I know in the MCU they paint a different picture of like Loki found out well into his 300s or whatever that he was in fact a quote unquote adopted and or kidnapped. Is he known for a very long time and he just holds a grudge for millennia, or
yes,
is this new information?
No, there were once again drawing upon my Thor just knowledge. From what I understand, it was a plot in the 70s.
Okay.
So, I mean, even if you're going to go by weird Marvel timeline, that's still at least 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's known for a while.
Okay. But he's still clearly over it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I can't blame him. Like, that's a lot of bullshit. That's fair.
Right. But this is leading into something that's actually fascinating. So.
Yeah. So Odin's like, all right, just tell me what's on your fucking mind. And Loki's like, well, how best to make a hero than to give him a means by which he might define himself as such. So basically, setting up a field of black against which his white will be yet more blinding. So basically, like, how do you make somebody super good? You put somebody who's super evil right next to them, and they look 10 times better by comparison.
This is true.
It's like having the ugly friend, right? Like, you got the ugly friend, and like next to them, you look hotter. Like, it's like
which
that.
None of us have.
No, not a single one
friends.
of us. Not a single one of us.
I have long been pointed out because a lot of my best friends are larger dudes. Like, and even before I was a large dude, and they are still larger, so they make fun of me for that. Is that I hang out amongst lighter people.
You're the skinnier friend.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And I don't, and like, I've tried to figure it out. I don't think it was like, I think actually when I was younger, it was justification just so I could become a little more fat.
No. I mean, honestly, it's just so much easier.
It's true.
Right?
It's true. So they're
Took a
talking
weird turn.
about,
I don't know where we got there.
That's all right. Bear doesn't listen to this half of graphically novels, so I can.
So he's like, how better to make somebody look good than to put them next to somebody who's bad.
So that's why he took him and all that stuff. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what you're putting down.
If you worked hard to make me the bad guy, it's because basically everybody has given me shit my entire life to make me the bad guy so that he could be the good guy. Not rewarding me for doing good and rewarding him, and withholding affection and, being abusive towards me. All of that was to make me into the person I am, so that it would also make your son, your true son and heir, the person that he is, which is a good dude.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot right there. And what I find interesting too is that, like, for such insight, he has no awareness.
Right.
So like you understand, you clearly get it.
Yeah.
You say it, you can articulate it, but you're not absorbing it in any helpful way to, I don't know, work through your trauma or whatever.
Yeah. This is, again, somebody who needs to talk to a therapist, but is instead berating his adopted dad.
Because that can also work. It cannot work.
So he's like, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that's not exactly what happened.
To which Odin does not respond.
Yeah. And he
Oh,
just
how do
kind
you
of,
respond to that, right? You're
he
like,
just kind of like sinks
fuck,
down,
kid?
like does the whole like head hanging in, in shame. And Loki's like, hey, look, I get where you're coming from now. I see it all now, but you don't get where I'm coming from. In making me the bad guy, you fucked up, because I'm Laufey's revenge. I am my father's vengeance for this. And recently, I came upon the knowledge that I am essentially a prisoner of fortune. That the forces that made me are equal across every realm. And the people who do this to me are not to blame for their role in what he literally says is the tragedy of my life. But I am always held guilty for my own actions, which by the laws of the cosmos, I am helpless to change or alter. No matter the crimes committed against me, it is only I who will be called the criminal.
But he's okay with that, right?
No, he's not. That's the thing. I mean, he's like, look, I was told that no matter what I do, people are always going to, try to kick my ass, even though it's not my fault. And so he's like, I reject this outright. I've proven that these so-called immutable laws are not as immutable as I was told. I rule Asgard now. I have stopped becoming I have stopped being the trickster god. And I am now Lord of all. Anybody who pissed me off, who tormented me, who made me feel bad, they're not going to escape my righteous judgment. I will fucking get mine. Thor's going to die at sunrise. You're going to watch your son die. And Odin's like, well, how do you plan on fucking doing that? He's not gonna,
the thing's not even built yet.
Right. He's not gonna go so easy. And Loki's like, I'm going to behead him. Let's see if he can survive that. So we now cut over to Loki is exiting the palace, make way, etc. So as he's walking, a figure cuts through the crowd, and it's that mysterious cloaked figure who's pushing people aside and is like, get out of the way, Loki at last, hooray. And Loki's like, who the hell are you? And this person says, I'm somebody who's better right to see you than anybody else here. I am Farbauti of Jotunheim, your mother.
Oh no.
And she pulls back her hood to reveal a dark-haired, kind of pale skin, kind of looks like Trent Reznor a little bit, woman who and it's
scared of Americans. Yeah.
It's also implied through the writing, through the text, that she has a very coarse, common type of accent.
Yeah.
And that I can't quite duplicate, but it kind of, to me, and Josh, you are welcome to put your own 2 cents in here. To me, it kind of reads as sort of Appalachian, kind of.
Appalachian, well, actually, that's funny, because Appalachian actually has a fair bit in common with Middle English.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's
whereas everything else is very Shakespearean, this is Middle English. This is closer to what I was saying, that Beowulf. It manages to screw up Yor in a way that is not any of the other 2 ways that modern people do it. Instead of YOU''RE, it's YORE, which actually is a very Middle English way to do it. So yeah. It's to denote that she is not from Asgard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is where we leave off on, and then we enter into issue 4, which is the final issue in this series.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So crazy.
So we cut to Loki being absolutely fucking gobsmacked. He's like, you I'm sorry.
Right. Dead ass. What did you say to me?
Yeah. and he's like, I thought you were dead. And she's like, no, I was alive. But I did not occupy the space that I once knew. Basically, I didn't live in the same realm of society that I used to. After Odin killed your dad, and most of our dudes, his army left and left all of the women behind to, you know, pick up the pieces. And we languished under the boot of our oppressor for years and years. But I always had a hope while I was, you know, away and being oppressed by these people, that my Loki would one day slay the tyrants of Asgard and you know, show them the strength of a true son of Jotunheim, as is his birthright.
Aww.
Now it is true, son, that when you were born, your dad was a little ashamed of you because you were kind of runty. But I said to him, I says, it's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean. And look at you now. You're doing so well. I'm so proud of you.
Look at all your big dick energy.
Yeah, you have the biggest dick energy in all the 9 realms, and I've awaited the day that you would avenge your father's death. But I never dreamed that you would become Lord of Asgard yourself. Like, wow, this is super cool. And a new, you know, since you've been gone and doing this stuff, you know, we have a new generation of warriors out in Jotunheim, and you know, they are awaiting for your return. And then I will have them come and storm the capital so that you can be you know, the Lord of the 9 realms, and all top to bottom. But until that takes place, I stand ready to come in and be your mother and queen of all the gods. And she pinches his fucking cheek.
What?
And there is just 2 straight panels of his, one where he is completely bug-eyed, like he cannot believe this just happened. And then one where he is turned, his face is turned slightly away from the reader, like embarrassed. You know, like, oh God, this woman.
It's so bad that he broke the 4th wall.
Right. Like, it's holy shit. Did you see that? I just saw it. And so he's like, oh, of course, Mom, you know, but before we get to all of that, let me make sure that you have the finest suite of rooms available to you, you know, suitable for your rank as queen of all the gods. And, you know, I know you've traveled a long way to get here, so we're going to take care of you. Guards, show her to the nicest rooms in the palace. And
he's not even a vetter.
So he takes one of the guards aside and is like, okay, just take her somewhere really fucking far from where the court is. See that she doesn't want for anything, but don't let her leave. Like, house arrest in all but name is what he says. Like, to make sure that she's well taken care of, but like, don't let her talk to anybody.
Wow. It's like the beginning. It's the beginning of his cult.
Like, he's been embarrassed because this takes place on the palace steps. Everybody's watching this exchange, this coarse giantess coming up and pinching his fucking cheek
without consent.
And he also, again, has no idea this really could be anybody. I mean, you know, he hasn't vetted her. But it's easiest to just kind of be like, okay, just get her out of here, man. You know,
fair. Okay, that's fair. You know, to minimize exposure or whatever.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
You know, so it's implied that everybody in the crowd is laughing at him, or he thinks they're laughing at him, because he's like, you know what? You know, kind of to himself, he's like, let them laugh. They won't be laughing when I kill Thor.
Which he never said he was going to do still.
Which he never said he was going to do. And so as he's strolling through the palace, he's just getting mobbed. You know, everybody who's like, hey, my lord, I must speak with you on a matter of some urgency. My lord, you know, these refugees and need help, and the Ironmongers Guild has a problem, and, you know, whatever. And so, you know, it's showing in a series of half a dozen rectangular panels on the page, you know, as he's walking, more and more people are surrounding him. And then he just straight up, as he's in the center of all of them, just straight up disappears. And it was like, where did he go? where, sir, can you hear us? And he is vanished himself, as he does.
Yeah,
And,
but I thought he wasn't. I thought he wasn't the trickster god anymore.
Yeah, funny how that happens.
Yeah, funny how you change your tune when you're like, no, fuck that, I need this right now.
So
I gave up smoking.
Right, until now, just one is fine. Why are you so involved? Like, leave me alone.
I just asked you to bum me one, for fuck's sakes.
I was gonna give it to my friend, but now I'm gonna smoke it just despite you. Like, oh
So
my god.
he finds himself back in his chambers again. He's by himself, talking to himself. He's like, I can't believe that I said that I was Laufey's revenge. It's more like Odin's revenge. Like, did he know what he was doing when he took me under his wing? Like, did he? Yeah, he's like, I was never allowed to forget that I wasn't born here, that I was adopted, that I'm alien, that I'm inferior to the gods and the heroes that live here. And Odin, but at the same time, Odin must have known that by raising me in this circle of jagoffs, that he was also making me alien to my own people. So this
Interesting.
is like so kind of like, like a transracial adoption.
It's some family of origin stuff in
Right.
marriage and family therapy terms, because you have your
Yeah.
chosen family and then you have your family of origin, and then there's some questions around that too.
Right. So he's thinking, he's like, I did not like that woman. She was gross and she was ugly and her breath was bad, and the way that she spoke was so coarse and rude. And I feel disgusted by my own mother. And how fucking awful that I've longed to belong to a people and a place for so long, and I meet one of my own blood relatives and I'm like, this person is gross. They're beneath me, because that's
but
how
not
I
like
was
that.
raised. Yeah. Like that's how I was raised. I was raised to disdain these people, and I do. I'm neither an Asgardian nor a son of Jotunheim. I am completely alone, and I am only myself. I can only be Loki, but I'm a person who is completely displaced from both realms. And he's like, I'm completely alone. And
wow, I feel like enters the hello darkness, my old friend.
Right. As he says, I'm completely alone. Somebody's like, again, off to the side, somebody's like, not so. and the concubine is back.
Of course. I mean, did she really leave?
Probably not. And so he's like, get the fuck out of here. I said I'm not interested.
Loki, once again, hire sex workers.
Right. And he's like,
solid financial advice, dude. Come on.
He's like, I don't want to fuck with anybody who's a minion of the Norn Queen. And she's like, well, she did send me here. That is true, but I'm not her servant. I am a concubine who was raised from childhood to become schooled in the many ways of service and solace. And I will show you if you let me. And so Loki, being Loki and also kind of being in a really shitty position right now, is like, oh, all right, fine.
Yeah, we don't make the best decisions when we're in like a mental health distress situation. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he
allowed a couple of those.
Probably needed some company and a little bit of physical affection. So we kind of fade to black on that. And then we cut over then to the scaffold, which has now been fully erected.
Wow.
And so it's just waiting. And so there are several silent panels of like, the sun is rising.
Ooh.
And Thor is in his cell, and we see him kind of flex his muscles trying to escape, and nothing happens. Loki wakes up the next morning, presumably, and is like, and then this broad's in his bed, and she's like, my lord, did I please you, my lord? And he's like, shut up, you did all right. Like, do you have to go? And he's like, yes, I did not promise you breakfast.
Oh, geez, right.
I've got
Don't
shit
forget
to
your
do.
skivvies on the way out, all right?
Right.
Clean up after yourself.
I called you a cab.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The money is on the dresser.
Yes.
So he's like, I've got stuff to do today, including and starting off with watching my brother lose his head. And he's getting dressed, and as he's getting dressed, he is having a little bit of a reflection on a time that Thor actually complimented him and was like, hey, aren't we just the two coolest dudes? There's no equal in all the 9 realms. Give me your hand on it. And he's talking to this kind of reflection in this bathing pool, essentially, that he's like, only you have ever loved me, Thor. Only you have ever looked at me with affection in place of condescension. Why then am I killing you and not the others? And he has a moment, and there's a pause, and he's like, it's because you stopped.
Oh, feeling
and
lonely.
Yeah. And so then he is alerted that the hour is upon and the hour is upon them, because Hela has returned, and Hela's like, hey, it's almost time.
Right? Oh God. She's got like the little tambourine shaking.
Yeah. And she's like, and so he's like, yeah, I said it's time. I didn't say that to you though. And she's like, well, I'm here anyways. Because nothing happens here without my knowing it.
Like, I brought margaritas, if that helps.
Right? I brought the machine. Setting it up so we could just have margaritas and watch your brother die.
Right.
Exactly. She's like, today's the day.
Exactly. Either way, people are about to have a good time.
Yeah. And she's super jazzed. She's like, all right, it's gonna happen. And he actually turns his back on her just silently. And this pisses her off. She's like, don't fucking do that to me. And he's like, all right, what do you want? Why are you here? And she's like, well, I just came to make sure you were going through with it. I would hate to see you lose your conviction as we got so close to this, because I've been waiting for this a long time. And he's like, look, I'm in the middle of getting dressed. You can stay or you can go if you want, but there may be partial nudity.
And don't rush me.
And don't rush me. And he's like, I don't know. And Hela's like, I don't know why you're not reassuring me that this is going to happen. You boasted about this for a long time. It's really weird that you're not as jazzed as I am, aren't you?
Right. And he's like, who told you that?
And then we kind of flash over to Thor.
Kill that child.
Thor is still chained, but he's flexing at the chains, and it does show on the bottom panel that they're starting to strain. Because
life finds a way.
And so meanwhile, Loki is like, attendant, come hither, and he's half dressed, and Hela's like, hey, you didn't say anything.
Oh my God.
He's
like, you're still here.
You're right. and she's like, you keep turning your back on me. Why, how come you're not telling me that this is going to go through? And he's like, oh, look, I'm just trying to get dressed. If you, if you
this
don't.
Seems like a conversation we can have when I have pants on.
Right. Like, what's your rush? And she's like, look, I don't know anything about fashion. Are these the kind of robes that are these the kind of things that are these kind of robes that you wear to the execution of your brother? I don't know. Tell me, man.
Right? Like, should I go somewhere to get something different? They're like a funeral dress I need. Like, what's happening here?
And he's like, man, shut up.
Do I not look like a superhero dominatrix? What?
Right.
You trying to tell me something?
Right. Should I not have my tits and my ass out? Is that considered poor form? I'm not sure.
Should I show Thor my tits and ass before he dies?
Is that like a last request kind of situation?
So she's like, well, he's like, hey, stop harassing me. Stop hassling me. I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do. And she's like, well, do you not want to kill Thor? And he's like, it's not my will. I do not want to do this. And she's like, well, you built a splendid stage upon which no one is to act.
Yeah.
In this panel, you can see the scaffold in the background,
sitting there crying,
sitting there empty. And he's like, look, I don't care. Even a god may be driven to extremes, but despite ancestry, destiny, and the weight of the cosmos, he retains yet his power to say no.
Oh, yeah.
And she reminds him, Thor is not gonna really, treat you any better just because you spared him. And he's like, well, maybe. But maybe now that we are getting close to essentially the ultimate conflict, we can finally understand each other at last.
What's the ultimate conflict?
His death.
Oh, okay. I was like, I get.
So now that we get closer to me actually killing him, maybe we can understand each other a little bit better and understand each other's position. So she's like, well, what do you think he's gonna see? And Loki says, somebody who would be his brother again.
Aww.
We did love and care for each other once before, all of this bullshit, without his stupid jerk friends and his bitch girlfriend. We were buddies, and even before Odin started pitting us against one another, we loved each other. And Thor believes of me what his father and everyone else has said because he has been led to do so. And I can't be too mad at him about that because I believed it too. But now, how could he possibly doubt me as a person? How could he not see this as well? That this is just something that our parents have made us do, that our friends have made us do, that everybody has made us do, but we are not and should not hate each other.
Especially since I have his life in my hands and I'm going to give it back to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing like good old empowerment to get things right again.
Yeah. So Hela is not really jazzed about this. She's like, oh, okay, so you want to piss me off? Is that what you're fucking trying to do?
Let's go. Let's go, horned boy.
And then something interesting happens.
What?
She starts to threaten him and then just stops, sighs, hangs her head, and is like, thus the unhappy paradox. The trickster may trick all, save for himself. And we see her drop her face into Loki's.
What? How's that go?
Yeah. So we cut back over to Palace Guard, who is snoring, like sleeping, standing up, like leaning against a pillar, holding a spear.
It was a big lunch.
And and then he's startled by Loki, who's walking past, who's like, "Oh, who dares?" So he goes to draw his sword, and he's like, "Yo, chill, it's me." And he's like, "Never, just you got to come with me to the prison. Just come with me. We're gonna do this now." And the guard's like, "Well, it's way before time. Most of Asgard is still asleep. Like, are we gonna do this early?" And he's like, let him. I've got a better idea in mind than a display of murder. I've got a better idea for a new age, a golden age for Asgard.
See, that's the real story behind the Grinch's heart growing 3 sizes. I have plans for this place.
But he's like, I want this place untarnished by blood, molded by truth, and burnished by brotherhood. But before he can finish that sentence, there is a tremendous explosion from where the holding cells are. Thor has gotten himself loose.
Oops.
And
has his hammer.
And he is not happy.
He's like, but wait, I've changed my mind.
And Loki is kind of half buried in the rubble and is like, no, I've changed my mind. You have to hear what I have planned. We can defy destiny. The two of us can do anything together. We don't have to be like this. Don't kill me. If you don't kill me, we will upturn fate. Don't make me who I am. Everything you do next hinges on what like everything that happens is going to hinge on what you choose to do next. If you ever, if you felt any mercy towards me at all, and he doesn't get to finish it, because the hammer comes down on him. And that is the end.
No.
Yes, that is the end of the story. The end of the story is the beginning of the story, is the eternal repetition of the story. This is always going to happen. This will always be what happens. This is the fate. This is the pattern. These are the gods.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's really, really good because we get to see yet again a Loki, much like in Agent of Asgard, who doesn't quite want to do what he is compelled to do. That gains a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of sentience. It's like, wait a minute, we don't have to be like the and die.
Right? Yeah.
Fade to black.
So I mean, and in that, it's a classic Loki story, right? Because that's a huge thematic in the Eddas, and also in the comics, and arguably in the MCU. Like, he is who he is because that's who he has to be. Right. Even if he grows and changes, he still has to be who he has to be.
Yeah, it's like the way that like self-fulfilling prophecies work is like, if you he basically manifests being the bad guy by trying not to manifest being the bad guy.
Yep 100%. So like,
oh, damned if you do and still damned, just period.
Yeah. But altogether, what did you think?
That's crazy. I feel like I got a little too involved in a lot of places, and of course my little therapist brain was like, oh my god, all these things, like,
that's good. That's why you're here.
Yeah, things that we love in this show is when it resonates with a person and their profession.
And it's 100%. Crazy. And I really like too that, especially kind of in his last leg of self-discovery before, being killed for trying to discover himself, let's be honest, that like he has this like insane inferiority complex that like spurs his superiority complex that just makes his inferiority complex worse. And it's like his entire life is just all these like little cycles happening around him.
Right. Totally.
And so like it is fitting that his entire life is literally a cycle, and that it will continue to perpetuate and go on regardless of like the content of what happens in that cycle.
Yeah.
It's also very disconcerting.
It's interesting because it is reassuring, in as much as like we know the heroes always win, but it's also really sad when you look at it like from Loki's perspective, as we've just done, where like there's nothing he can do.
Yeah, that like how does the As the World Turns music start?
Right.
So the clock ticks or whatever it says.
Like grains of sand through the hourglass.
Yes. Those are the days of our lives or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you can't escape it. And that's but I don't know what's worse, to have it happen quickly or to go through this entire cycle of self-discovery for it to end the same way. And in the end, does it matter if it ends the same way if you've been able to achieve some level of self-awareness?
Right.
Like I feel like the story you can come away with is like, well, fuck that. Or the story you come away with is, it's important to try anyway.
Right. It's important to try your best.
It's just try your best. Just do your best. Even when you're going to get smashed by a hammer, just give it the good old whatever try. Like, see what you can do with that information. So I don't know. I feel like, I feel like this is a great comic for, I feel like if you read it in, at a time when you were having different types of moods, so you'd pull out different things from it. So I feel like if you were in like a depressive episode, you'd be like, fuck everybody, Loki's awesome. But if you were like in this, fuck Loki, he's a trickster and he's a pain in the ass and he got what he got kind of mood, you'd get that out of it. So I like that the story, it's almost choose your own adventure based on your mindset.
Sure, totally.
even though the content stays the same. It's very interesting. I really liked it.
Good. I'm super glad that I can share this with you.
It was fun. And also, can I point out that like he was his mom's hero, but he didn't care nothing about that because he just wanted to impress the Asgardians.
Right.
Well, and in fact, that is what convinced him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what put his mind at it to start to be like, okay, but I wanted this, but I don't.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to impress these people, but then I saw those people.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I guess the only other question I have left is, what the hell happened to the bridge?
Bridge is fine.
Yeah, bridge is fine. They didn't get around to destroying it because they were building a scaffold.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So
They were
diversion.
they were ordered to destroy the bridge at the same time that Thor was being executed. And since that did not happen, obviously, the bridge remains intact. So good news for all of us here on Midgard.
Yeah, because that could have gone either way.
Good news for those of us on 1994.
That's awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Dawn, do you feel like you have a good grasp of this story?
I do. Like I said, I think I would have a different grasp depending on my mind frame at the time, which I think is what a good story is all about anyway. I kind of like comics better. So if that's a win, that's a win.
Woohoo! Always a win.
Like I'm very curious about this actual comic now. So
good.
Excellent. Well, you can, if you are fine with reading digitally, you can find it on several places digitally.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
It is on Amazon Prime Reading for free.
There you go. If you have Amazon Prime,
better.
you can read it for free.
Sadly, I do.
So as this is the finale of season 2, I reached out to Leia before the show and asked if we should do what we did last season, which is rank our worst to best comics that we've read. And she said, hell yes. So Leia, are you prepared? Are you ready? I know that this one was more difficult than last season.
So like I said, hell yes, but then I realized afterwards, about 15 seconds afterwards, that I'd made a terrible mistake. What I meant was hell no. And not because I don't want to do it, but because this season has been so almost universally good that I feel like ranking them is going to betray some of my favorite comics, and then they will be mad at me because they were ranked in a certain way. So I will do my best.
For those who are not aware, also, we did do another episode that was unfortunately lost to a hard drive failure. We did All-Star Superman, and it was universally hated by everyone involved. So that would have easily been at the bottom of both lists. Very, very easily. It was not a great comic. We struggled through it, and then fate intervened and just took it away.
It was so bad that it deleted itself off the hard drive.
Yes. Destiny came and and removed it. So
I was gonna say, it seems like there was some intervention there that was potentially necessary. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a great time recording it. Don't get me wrong. We had a fun time doing the show, but it was panned. It was, if you ever want to make a Superman story and try to make Superman more interesting, the solution is not to take away all of his weaknesses and give him more powers.
Yeah.
That is not how you do that.
No.
Anyway, so for number 10, I imagine we both have the same one, Leia.
Flashpoint.
Same.
Fucking cosmic treadmill. It's so stupid. I hate it. And it was a throwaway line. It only appears in one line and one panel, but that was enough to turn my entire soul against this comic. Fuck that.
That is how the Flash breaks time. And he has a treadmill that he goes fast enough to break the time barrier.
Oh, so dumb.
Dude, who has the time to run like that?
You're right?
Like, what the hell?
So my number 9 was Original Sin.
Okay. I would have to say that my number 9 would be Avengers versus X-Men, and not even because it was bad. It's just my long-term hesitance to get really deeply entrenched in X-Men, because the works are so lengthy and so deep and have been done by so many very wordy high concept writers that I just struggle with X-Men. I don't dislike them, I just kind of struggle with it a little bit.
Totally understood. I only chose Original Sin, and basically number 9 on, I enjoyed all of these comics.
Yeah, same.
But the reason that I chose Original Sin was mostly just because it's a goofy ass storyline. I mean, it really is. It's got some great moments and it puts some stuff together that's pretty fun, but the entire concept is just goofy.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of eyeballs, you have moon people, and there is even in the form of LMDs clones. So it adds everything on this show that we have grown to be wary of.
Yeah, and that's why it's my what is it, number 7 pick now? Because
yeah,
I don't like eyeballs, guys. We discussed this during the initial episode, and I just need to reiterate that eyeball stuff makes me squeamish. That's all. I did enjoy it, but eyeball stuff is bad.
How about your number 8?
I would have to say, and again, much like you already disclaimed, I like all of these, so like it's difficult. I would probably put this story at my number 8.
Interesting. I had that as well.
Yeah,
I had Blood Brothers at number 8 as well.
And again, not because it's bad, it's just kind of short.
Yeah, it's short. I mean, it doesn't. We ended up taking a lot more out of this than I thought we were going to, and credit to Dawn.
Yes.
On a lot of that. But yeah, it was a simple read. It was like going through it, and it was only because we had somebody in the psychiatric field, looking at it with us and listening, that really I brought out a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, no, that's totally legit. And again, I didn't hate it.
That's how therapy works.
Yes. So Leia, you and I switched our number 7 and number 9 because my number 7 was Avengers versus X-Men.
Okay.
I mean, can I say disqualification because it involves Scott Summers? Nobody likes Cyclops. Nobody needs Cyclops.
No. Who this man?
Yes, absolutely. How about your number 6?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I would have to go with and I really hate to say this, it's going to shock a lot of people, Young Avengers.
Wow. Okay.
And again, not because I think it's bad.
Right.
It's just upon a reread, I realized how very difficult it was to explain to somebody who was not familiar with at least 8 other ongoing storylines at the time. Like, there was a lot to unpack in there. It wasn't a very simple story. It was entangled in a lot of other stuff. And so there was a lot going on. But again, it's one of my favorite comics. So that's not, to say that I didn't like it at all. It is a lot. It was a difficult episode for me, I think is really what it came down to.
That's interesting because I feel the same way about my number 6, which is Arkham Asylum. I mean, really what drops it is I had to realize that you can't in a podcast explain Dave McKean's art.
Right.
And that is so much of what Arkham Asylum is.
Yeah, it's so integral to the story that it is part of the story itself. So if you can't see it, you are losing half of the story.
Right. Yep. So for my number 5, I had Marvel Noir. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had too.
Yeah.
They're in the middle.
Yeah, again, love it, but it's a genre piece that's done, it doesn't have any real lasting effect, but I do like the style. And it also encouraged me to I probably will now pick up the rest of Marvel Noir, because there are some that it reminded me how much I really enjoy your 1920s noir comics, and even though you have to know what you're getting into with that genre.
Sure.
Because it is, you got to be in the right mood for noir.
Right.
How about your number 4?
That would be Marvel 1602. And again, it really loved that story. I actually loved it more on a reread than I did when I originally got it. I got it as a gift actually for a birthday a few years back, and I was like, oh, this is really good. It's by one of my favorite writers.
Was that your comic book birthday?
Yes, it
Where
was.
everybody
dressed up as superheroes. Yeah, that was great. I'm a giant nerd.
Hey, listen, I was there with Jen, with my wife. I was dressed as Gambit and she was dressed as Rogue. So
it was great. And you guys looked amazing. But yeah, it was not, again, don't hate it. But it's not as compelling as some of the others on the list, I think, ultimately. And it does have a little bit of I feel like the choice to make Steve Rogers in disguise as a Native American was probably like a cool one for when the story was written, but in the modern day it kind of is a bit cringe. So one of those product of its time things. Like nowadays I don't think we would do that, but it is what it is.
1602 was also my number 4. For similar reasons. Love Neil Gaiman, love the stuff that he does. There is not a story that has ever come out of that man that I've been even neutral on. I have really enjoyed the things that he does. But yes, very much product of its time. And also, the first time he had ever worked with Marvel, and Marvel was like, you are super, super famous. Sandman is the greatest thing that's ever happened to comic books. Here, have our entire library. And I feel like he hit the mark, but it wasn't a lasting mark. It wasn't something that I'll look back on and be like, oh my God, that still stands up today for similar reasons that you've said. But it was also him flexing his historian muscles.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
So for number 3, I had Mr. Miracle, which was new to me. I had not read it before this. This was something you brought to the table and really brought me into the whole DC apocalypse, all this other stuff like that I did not even dip my toe in before. And I loved it. And in fact, in my house now, when Jen brings up something that we have no control over, but she's, we just want to bitch about it, I actually have said apocalypse is several times.
Yeah, the dark side is actually.
Oh, dark side is. Sorry, yeah, dark side is.
Dark side is has. I got Adam for Christmas a notebook, and that has the panels of Darkseid just casually eating a carrot from the veggie tray on the front, and there's just no dialogue. Just Darkseid crunching on a carrot, because I don't know, that just struck me. It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. So it's beloved in this household.
It's very Midwestern.
Yes,
we're going to have a life and death trial. Well, we need a veggie tray.
Yeah, and for me, my pick for this round was Arkham Asylum. I ranked it a little bit higher because I did not appreciate it when I was young. I got it when I was in like a teen. Bought it for Dave McKeon's art, and I was like, this is very good. And I didn't understand it fully. Like, I did not pick up half of what Grant Morrison was putting down until I reread it for this podcast. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, there is a lot going on in here that I did not get when I was, 16, 17 years old.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a pleasure to go back and reread it. And also Ryan was a fantastic guest for that episode, so it does get a little bit of a bonus point in his favor, because he's just great.
How about your number 2?
That would be Transmetropolitan.
Okay. My number 2 was actually Young Avengers, our 2-parter for this season. Again, I'd read it before. I'd actually read it after last season because we spent half the season of you telling me to find everything that Kieran Gillen has ever written and put it in my eye holes.
Yep.
Which absolutely. But yeah, just solid story. I also love where it's going with the current MCU.
Yes, 100%.
You know, so that two-part will probably want to be one of the ones that, you know, for a lot of people like Dawn who are just following the last 5 years of the MCU, this is what it's building to, is this Young Avengers. At the time that we are recording this, only part 1 is released. So
yes. Yeah, and by the time this comes out, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness should be upon us. So we will get to see one of my personal favorites. I lived, guys, I'm not even gonna kid you here. When I saw the trailer at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, the first trailer for Multiverse of Madness, and I got to see my first glimpse of America Chavez, I teared up because I'm a giant fucking nerd. I really need to stress this. I love America Chavez. Give her whatever she wants. So I am very jazzed about that. I love the Young Avengers. I always will.
Yeah, and this was a fantastic run to have them in.
Yes.
So my number 1, surprise to no one, is Transmetropolitan. Yep,
that doesn't surprise me at all. That I know exactly how you feel about it, and really I feel the same way. I love Transmet. My number 1 is Mr. Miracle, because as much as I love Transmet, and as much as I love just about every other one on this list that we've done this season so far, I am a huge Tom King person. I was Mr. Miracle was the first series of his that I ever read, and I was absolutely blown away with how he tells a story, the way he tells a story, and how he manages to build suspense and mystery and relationships and flesh characters out, character development and things like that. Just unreal. The dude is just so flippin' good. It's I could talk about him all day. Like, he's doing one right now called The Human Target. Again, it's a DC property with a semi-obscure character. Josh, how many times have you heard about the Human Target before?
This is the first time.
Exactly. And same thing with Mr. Miracle for me, where I was like, who's this fucking guy?
Well, and we were going to do 2 Tom Kings this season because we were going to do the Vision run, which we have now moved to season 3 because the guest had voice issues, which important to a podcast.
Right.
But I mean, worked out for the better, because I think moving forward, having a Tom King or Kieran Gillen, or, you know, introducing people to these new-ish artists. I'd love for somebody to choose us to explain the first trait of Wicked and the Divine, that they don't know anything about that. You know, there is so much going on in new comic books right now.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I know that we end up bouncing between DC and Marvel a lot, but we have a lot of things on the list that are, you know, the list of things to choose that are, I want to say obscure, but they're not obscure to people in the comic book knowledge.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to explaining them to people before they become a media property, because there's so much out there that will.
Right. Like in our household, we read a lot of indie stuff, or smaller imprints and things like that. And there's so much good stuff out there, you guys, that like a lot of people just do not know about. Because they're not DC and they're not Marvel, you know, they're not on a major publication. So like, but there's good stuff going on. Like, I mean, I could talk about this all day. I won't, but, yeah, no, there's good stuff out there. Like, and if ever anybody wants to be a guest on the podcast, but does not have a specific inclination, or like, I don't know, you know, basically you don't know what you don't know. So if you want us to pick for you, I've got like a good handful of things at the ready that are not necessarily Marvel or DC properties, but are just good.
Yeah, we have a whole list that we send people that are, you know, if they're like, oh, I don't know a certain thing, but I want to be on the show, we send you a list. And we say, okay, great. Here's what we've got, you know, that we've just thought of. Like, not that we've researched, not that we've read even. Yeah. Just that we went through at the very beginning of this and went, write down as many storylines as you can.
Yeah.
You know, and So we have that list that we can send out to people. But
Yeah.
well, that will cover it for season 2. Dawn, you still with us? Sorry, we talked a bunch.
I am, but I figured, since I pressed pause on listening to your podcasts for a little bit so that I didn't, steal people's jokes or whatever, say stuff that I thought was original that I had literally just heard from you. So I'm excited to go back and pick back up. I think I'm missing like the last 3 or whatever. So
Okay.
That's fantastic.
I've enjoyed a lot of the other ones too. I liked that Transmetropolitan one. I liked the noir one for sure. And I liked the enthusiasm you both brought to them. I think that's the selling point for me is like, since I don't do comics, that like when other people have passion for stuff, that's when I'm like, that's actually pretty cool then.
Excellent.
And that's kind of what we're here for,
Mhm.
even if people, we actually had Joe Witkowski for our Young Avengers episode talked about how he doesn't necessarily follow comics, but he falls into Wikipedia holes where he'll start reading on one character and then jump to the next and and so he kind of builds his view of comics from that. Hopefully we can be somewhat like that where we can say, okay, well, here's a whole storyline. Like, I know last season we did House of X, Powers of X, which is the big X-Men story right now. Like, you have to understand that to understand anything going on in X-Men, in Marvel right now. Well, we have a 2-hour podcast. So you could just listen to us joke and hopefully make it fun. And then you could be like, okay, well, I could jump into a comic now if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, that's our end goal. So hopefully we're able to do that. And Dawn, hopefully we have you back.
Yeah.
You find more things you're curious about, and we explain it to you.
Mhm.
Awesome. I would love that. And you're also allowed to take that back after you go through the edits.
Okay.
No, not at all. Not
I won't
at
hold you
all.
Uh-uh.
I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it.
Fair. You'd be like contingent upon the editing, though.
Right. But thank you so much for being with us, Dawn. This has been a blast.
Yeah.
It has been. Thank you so
yeah.
much for having me. I'm
This-
glad my stalking paid off, but also PSA, don't stalk people.
It worked for me, but don't let it work for you.
Exactly.
This
yes.
cool thing, which you must never ever do because it will ruin your life.
Exactly. See, it doesn't always turn out the way you expect it to, but sometimes it does.
Right, absolutely. Well, that does it for us for season 2. Keep paying attention to our Facebook page when we figure out who we're going to have on for season 3. Graphically novel.
Like to be on season 3, please let us know.
Absolutely. That call will be going out soon. Actually, probably today when we're done recording this. So we can hook it up. But until then, until we see you again, take it away, Vandello.
A little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.